Phoenix Nights. Chapter 319. Although the perfect birthday night in the plan had a little interlude, in the next few days, the female sheriff who had a taste for the first time and the male sheriff who was a rookie in theory and practice could be described as sticking together. However, the happy days always seemed particularly short. Finally, it was time to part again. Perhaps the more painful the parting, the more precious the reunion was. "Don't worry, as long as my plan takes a successful step, there will be a chance to come back in the middle." Shinrui looked at Paglio and others who came to see him off and waved his hand. "Don't flatter yourself." Lomont, who was riding on a horse, glanced at him contemptuously. "You obviously came to see me off." This time, Lomont also planned to leave for a while. His goal was the fallen angel capital. He wanted to meet Isabella to see if she was his father's sister. The main goal was to inquire about the whereabouts of the artifact of the Belphegor royal family, Bree's shadow boots. Delia smiled sweetly, showing a rare charm. Lomont was stunned. "Are you shouting the word free in your heart?" Lomont shook his head quickly. "I'm thinking that I must finish this as soon as possible and rush back to see my beloved Delia as soon as possible." Since Isabella was likely to be related to that secret force, and it also involved Brock, Lomont's trip was not easy. For this reason, Delia did not go together, so as not to expose her whereabouts and attract Brock or even Jacob and others. Lomont had the secret treasure, evil blue tear, to hide his breath. Coupled with a certain degree of camouflage skills, even if Brock was in front of him, he might not be able to see through him. "Don't try to hide it from me," Delia snorted coldly. "In any case, remember to keep your cheap life of seducing women." On the surface, the two of them seemed to be a quarrelsome couple, especially the guy with the foul mouth who was like a little submissive in front of Delia. However, in their hearts, they both saw each other as more important than their own lives. This was a kind of tacit understanding that they would go through thick and thin together. Shinrui and Athena also had this kind of tacit understanding, so he felt very happy. In a person's life, to be able to meet each other like this, no matter how difficult it would not be in vain. However, at this time, Athena gave Kia some time to say goodbye. These days, Shinrui had been with her, and Kia had not had any time to be alone with him. Although it was the succubus maid's own request, Athena felt that it was unfair to her. In fact, this was where Kia was smart. She was very glad to meet a legal wife like Athena. It was undeniable that two women who shared a man at the same time would inevitably compete in some areas. However, Athena's generosity and friendliness made Kia feel real warmth in her heart. She believed that if her mother, Freya, saw this in another world, it would be enough to make her smile. "You must pay attention to your safety." Kia's charming eyes were sparkling. In fact, she did not spend a lot of time with this master, but she had already truly given her heart to him. And Shinrui kissed her forehead gently. "The next time you come back, you can wear that." Speaking of this, a blush flashed past the succubus's face. Her voice was already so soft that it could not be heard. She retreated behind Athena. That was naturally the dark will. Kia remembered that when they went to Mountain Shilong, Princess Royal Jia had already given the dark will to Shinrui. Kia was so shocked that she almost couldn't close her mouth. For a long time, her biggest reliance to tease the human master was her own special physique. She didn't expect that the other party already had the ultimate weapon to restrain this aspect. The dark will, the beloved concubine of Sakya Lucifer, Snowy Belphegor, cast the secret treasure ring with the power of the strongest, the eye of evil, mixed with the blood of the Lucifer royal family. It had a strange power, and it could suppress all special devouring power. It was the rare nemesis of Kia's devouring physique. When the human went to Mountain Shilong to serve as a mining officer, he was secretly given this ring by Princess Royal. In other words, after Kia became Shinrui's maid, her teasing and seduction from time to time had been playing with fire. She might get burned at any time. However, this fire really didn't burn. He really is a silly man, but also a persistent man at the same time. Or perhaps a patient wolf? No matter what, I like it. Chinray was not stupid. He naturally knew the meaning of this sentence. His eyes suddenly lit up. Kia's meaning was very clear. She must come back safely, and the reward was herself. This reward mechanism was really tempting. Chinray's gaze fell on Athena. The swordswoman who had completed the transformation from a girl to a woman was more mature and charming. He walked over and hugged Athena, then Kia. "Wait for me to come back." His tone was firm and powerful. Nodding to Paglio and Delia, Chinray rode on the wyvern. As he was about to tell Loma to take care, the guy spoke first. "Hey, Sir Leader, you won't bring back another woman this time, right?" Chinray swallowed his words of farewell. He sneered and glanced at Delia. "Will I tell Delia that you have an old lover in the capital?" "Ah?" Before Lomad could answer, the wyvern had already soared into the air and flew forward with Chinray's laughter. "He's really a guy who doesn't want to lose at all." Lomad felt Delia's cold gaze. He shuddered and urged the horse to run away. "Let's go. When we come back, we will slowly teach that guy a lesson." Paglio laughed, glanced into the distance, and turned to leave. On the distant hillside, Alice put her hands in front of her eyebrows and looked at the figure that flew away. It took her a long time to recover. "He left again, he will come back." A somewhat cold voice sounded. It turned out to be Jia. Alice remembered that when she and Chinray were flying in the air a few days ago, the human had hinted vaguely that he wanted to be good friends with her forever. At that time, the little lowly pretended not to understand, but she faintly understood in her heart. Am I really not as good as Athena? Is it because of my disappointing breasts? Or, in Chinray's view, Alice was only a girl who was less than 14 years old after all. It was just a little youthful curiosity or curiosity about the opposite sex. It couldn't be called liking, let alone love. It was completely different from Athena's unforgettable love that would follow her through life and death. "Sister, what does it feel like to like a person?" Jia was slightly distracted. "Like a person, even if he is very hateful sometimes, I want to see him often? When I can't see him, I am always worried about him." Alice didn't seem to deliberately wait for her sister's answer. She muttered to herself and asked, "What about loving someone? Alice, are you thinking nonsense?" Jia's voice became colder. In fact, she couldn't answer this answer, even if it was only in her heart. Thinking of a famous saying, Dragon's motto, that a friend who loved to drink once said, Alice suddenly cheered up again. "It's okay. Let's go, sister." Town Moling. Kaneda held a report, and frowned tightly. This expression almost solidified on his face in recent days. The content of this report was the financial income and expenditure of the last quarter. This was a real internal account, not the kind of public account book set up to cope with inspection. To be honest, the economic situation of Town Moling was better than Joseph's Town Mordo, but the economic source was relatively simple. Recently, military spending had become tighter and tighter. Originally, the military power of a town was strictly limited, but both Joseph and Kaneda had their own private soldiers. This kind of private soldiers had far exceeded the normal number. Red Spirit Lord Josh knew that these two kids were competing with each other, so he just turned a blind eye to it. However, he had never lost his vigilance. As a lord, he had more and more powerful forces in his hands. Even if his son had any bad moves, he had absolute control. Just like the Emperor and the Crown Prince, on the one hand he hoped that the Crown Prince would be better and inherit his kingdom. On the other hand, he had to guard against the Crown Prince who was too powerful and seized the throne in advance. In the struggle for power, there were no father, son, or brother, only opponents. The financial deficit was getting bigger and bigger. Kaneda already felt that he was in a dilemma, but it was impossible for him to give up. At present, he could only grit his teeth and keep moving forward. He and Joseph, and even Josh, whoever could persist to the end would be the winner. Bringing down his father, Josh, was a long-term problem. He definitely didn't have to consider too much now. At present, the main opponent was his brother, Joseph. In terms of combat power, although Joseph had broken through to Demon King level, Kaneda had a great chance to win in terms of personal strength, military power, and military talent, but he was indeed much inferior in terms of financial resources. Joseph concurrently served as the financial officer of the Dark Moon and received strong support from the Mellon family and other forces. His foundation was much stronger than Kaneda, so the urgent need to solve the financial problem at the moment was the problem of funds. A ruler had its strengths, and an inch had its weaknesses. Just like his talent and training was far better than Joseph, Kaneda's economic talent was much inferior. He had tried to invest in other estates and the Shadow Empire, and most of them had failed. The tax rate of town Moling could no longer be raised. The economic problem was getting more and more tense. Because of this, Kaneda was very aggressive towards Joseph some time ago. Joseph was scheming and understood this, so he fought with Joseph. On the surface, he seemed to be at a disadvantage, but in fact, he was playing delaying tactics. He intended to use a protracted war to wear down Kaneda. Kaneda was very clear about this. He was anxious in his heart, but he couldn't do anything at the moment. If this momentum continued, there was no other way except to disarm and weaken himself. Each of those private soldiers was infused with Kaneda's painstaking efforts. They were definitely the elites of the elites. Asking him to give up was more painful than cutting his flesh. This kind of self-weakening was equivalent to strengthening the opponent invisibly, and it was like quenching thirst with poison. It would become more and more intense. How could he, who had lost his strengths and advantages, compete with Joseph? At this moment, the guard came to report. "Sir Samuel is back, and he also brought a person. He said that he has an important matter to see him. Quickly invite them in." Kaneda kept the report in the space ring. During this time, under his various coaxing methods, the powerful human experiencer, Samuel, gradually put down his arrogance and vigilance. Both parties established a relatively solid friendship. A few days ago, Kaneda was assassinated. It was Samuel who killed the assassins in time. Then, Samuel took the initiative to ask for permission to secretly burn Joseph's granary in town Mordo. He also severely injured the veteran, Flandy, who had been supporting Joseph. He vented his anger, which was considered a little comfort in the current predicament. Samuel walked into the hall with a man in a cloak whose face could not be seen clearly. Samuel looked at the guard beside Kaneda. Kaneda understood, and ordered his men to step back. In case Samuel had any ill intentions, these people alone couldn't stop him. Not to mention that this was Kaneda's territory. He naturally had life-saving items on him. "Sir Samuel." Kaneda stood up to show his respect. "Welcome back victorious. I have received the information from town Mordo. Joseph is stomping his feet in anger now. It's just a piece of cake." Samuel shook his head indifferently. "Sir Kaneda, I brought back a person this time. I'll introduce him to Sir." Kaneda looked at the cloaked man and was secretly surprised. Samuel had always been arrogant, but when he mentioned this person, there was an unprecedented respect. It seemed that this person's identity was not trivial. "This is my eldest brother, the true heir of the Tribbett family, Charles. He has just arrived in the demon realm. This time, he is here for a very important matter." Samuel showed a respectful expression on his face. "Brother, this is my new friend in the demon realm, Sir Kaneda, the controller of town Moling. A human who just came to the demon realm? And he's even Samuel's brother?" Kaneda noticed Samuel's wording and address, and his pupils contracted slightly. The arrogant Samuel's awe of his brother was by no means fake. This was the complete opposite of Kaneda's attitude toward Joseph. He saw that the mysterious human had slowly taken off his cloak. This man was not very tall. He had blonde hair, fair skin, golden pupils, and a resolute face. The power breath exuded from his body gave Kaneda a trembling feeling. Sure enough, this human is at least a great demon king powerhouse. Judging from Samuel's attitude, I'm afraid Charles's strength is far better than his brother. Could it be that he has reached the demon emperor level? "Mayor?" The blonde human frowned. "Samuel, the person you're recommending to me is just a mayor? I thought he should at least be a lord." What the hell are you doing? Countless thoughts turned in Kanita's mind in an instant. Charles's impolite questioning did not make him angry. Instead, he smiled and said, My father, Sir Josh, is the owner of this Red Spirit estate and one of the 4 lords of the fallen angel empire. It's just that I happened to be training behind closed doors some time ago, and I didn't see any visitors. Therefore, it is the wisest decision for Sir Samuel to come here. Kanita didn't know to what extent the two humans had communicated in advance. Charles's posture was deliberately pretended, but he just gave Samuel a way out on the surface so that this conversation could continue in a friendly atmosphere. Samuel nodded to Kanita to express his gratitude. Charles looked slightly relieved and said, Since Sir Kanita is the Lord's son and Samuel's friend, then I hope to get Sir's help to arrange for me to meet Sir Lord. Although demons and humans were mortal enemies, it was not uncommon for humans to come to the demon realm to train over the years. Many would temporarily attach themselves to the demon realm's forces. However, this Charles wanted to contact the demon realm's lord as soon as they met. The situation seemed to be a bit wrong. Coupled with the important matters mentioned by Samuel previously, Kanita had doubts in his heart. What is the purpose of Charles? Chapter 320. Kanita thought quickly and said, My father is training behind closed doors. Unless there is an extremely urgent military situation, even I can't see him. I want to ask Sir first, what is the matter? Kanita's sentence was not completely prevaricating. Josh was indeed training some time ago, but it was over now. This human came very strangely. Despite Samuel's relationship, it was only a one-sided statement. It was impossible to bring Charles to see Josh in such an unclear way. In case of any improper actions, wouldn't it implicate me and give Joseph a chance to completely defeat me? However, the war between the demon realm and the human world would not start for another 200 years. The possibility of a human coming to assassinate the demon realm lord was slim. Kanita was more concerned about what he could get from this matter. This is a matter that is beneficial to both sides, and the benefits are quite huge. Benefits? Kanita immediately concentrated, but he remained calm on the surface. Huge benefits? Please forgive me for being straightforward. Sir Samuel is from the human world, and this is the demon realm. I really can't think of what huge benefits Sir can bring us. Charles was naturally Chinrui who activated the camouflage. Facing Kanita's doubts, he shook his head. I'm sorry, I can't disclose it too clearly, but what I can tell Sir is that if the cooperation is successful, the benefits will be double, triple, or even more than the investment. Of course, this investment must reach a certain amount, otherwise it will not be able to meet the needs and generate no benefits. Hearing this huge return, Kanita's heart skipped a beat, but he still remained calm. It is really a huge benefit, but I can't think of why it will generate such a huge benefit. Don't question the power of the human's top business family, Tribbit. The human economy and business are by no means comparable to your barren demon realm. Chinrui exuded a terrifying aura. Similarly, Samuel's face also showed a proud smile. Kanita once heard Samuel occasionally mention that his family was the top business family of the empire. Its financial resources were quite strong, which was far from comparable to the demon realm's family. He frowned and said, If this is the case, why did Sir come to the demon realm? He could easily find a bigger and safer partner on the surface. As far as I know, just coming here through the space channel is a huge risk, not to mention the hostility of the demons towards humans. Samuel interjected. Sir Kanita, you might not know, but recently my family, Samuel. Chinrui stopped what Samuel was about to say. We don't have much time. You have been in the demon realm for a while. You should have a certain understanding of the situation here. I order you to leave here immediately and find a truly powerful opponent with me. Samuel hesitated for a moment before answering with certainty. Yes. Please wait. Kanita quickly digested what was revealed in the few words just now. There was a certain situation in the Kavagd family, and the time that Charles needed to complete this matter was still relatively tight. In any case, this was likely to be an important opportunity for him to reverse the current predicament. Demons! Shinrei looked at Kaneda faintly, and a fierce murderous aura slowly exuded. You want to keep us here? Samuel said. Sir Kaneda, thank you for taking care of me during this time. I don't want to have any conflict with you. Please let us leave. If Sir Samuel wants to leave, no one in town Moling can stop him, let alone Sir Charles. Kaneda shook his head quickly. Among the 4 lords of the fallen angel family, my father is the most powerful. Coupled with my relationship, he is the most suitable partner. If Sir Charles wants to turn to find other partners, I'm afraid he will have to take a lot of detours. Both of you don't have much time to waste, right? Your observation of details has gained my recognition, Sir Kaneda. Shinrei put away his murderous aura under Samuel's signal. As a possible collaborator, I just hope to get more information. Kaneda looked calmer and slowly let go of his hand. That item was used to save his life in a crisis. Shinrei's eyes lit up. Partner? Does your excellency represent his lordship? No, it will take a while for my father's training to end. Kaneda shook his head. I mean, before that, Sir can try to cooperate with me for a while. When my father finishes his training, as long as there are facts as a basis, I can guarantee that I will be able to convince my father to agree. This suggestion sounds good. Shinrei pondered. I need a large number of light crystal coins now. By the way, it should be called magic crystal coins here. Do you have the ability to supply it? Crystal mines were non-attributed energy resources. Both humans and demons could directly absorb the power in it to assist in training, so it was a universal currency in both worlds. Although many human or demons' kingdoms and empires had issued their own exclusive currencies in history, they were all eliminated with the passage of time. Only this kind of hard currency crystal coins had been used to this day, just like the gold in another world that Shinrei knew. Kaneda was short of money. When he heard that he needed a lot of money, he frowned and said nothing. This supply is not free, and it can get quite a lot of returns. The earlier the investment, the higher the return. Now is the initial period, and the return can reach double. When everything is stable, the return rate will decline. For example, if you invest 10 million light crystal coins now, you can get at least 20 million return during the startup period. But when all projects start to operate continuously, this return rate will stabilize at about 10% to 20%. You can only get a return of about 12 million. Kaneda was taken aback. This is equivalent to a loan. I have tried to invest several times. The return rate can reach 200% in a short period of time. It is definitely a huge profit. Even in the later period, as long as the funds accumulate to a corresponding level, I can continue to get 10% to 20%. It is also a stable and abundant source of income. The question is, how can I trust such a strange human? Sir brother, let me explain a little to Sir Kaneda, Samuel said. To be honest, after I came to the demon realm, something happened to my family. Due to the different camps, the family was sanctioned by the second Prince Garfield's conspiracy. The sources of funds of all parties were frozen. The Crystal City built under the order of His Majesty Rex was stuck in the final stage of completion. At the same time, many investment projects were forced to be suspended due to the lack of startup funds. Coupled with the interference of hostile families, the former allies are either watching or defecting. We can't get enough sources of funds. Let's put it this way, it has reached a more critical moment now, so my brother took the risk to come to the demon realm to seek partners. Kaneda nodded. The Tribute family should be at a critical juncture of life and death. All parties are suppressing and watching from the sidelines. Before that, Samuel had always been arrogant, and he did not show the slightest nervousness or uneasiness. It seemed that, as he said, the family being sanctioned should have happened after he came to the demon realm. Otherwise, Samuel would never stay in this small town Moling. He would have gone to a certain estate to directly contact the Lord. Samuel, you have said enough. Shinrei frowned. Mr. Kaneda, with your wisdom, you should be able to judge that this is a good thing for both sides. As long as we can get enough startup funds, the Cribbett family can turn the tables in one fell swoop, complete the construction of the Crystal City, and maintain the operation of the investment project. We can regain the right to speak in front of Rex the Great. The benefits that can be obtained are naturally huge. This is the reason why I previously proposed a doubled rate of return in the early stage, but after everything returns to normal, this rate of return will definitely decrease. Kaneda carefully calculated for a while. Connecting with Samuel's performance, he felt that the authenticity of this matter was still very high. But even if it was true, the risk to take was not small. First, the situation of the Cribbett family must be quite critical, and it was still unknown whether they could turn the tide. Second, the Cribbett family was in the human world after all. Even if they really turned the tables and made a profit, he, who was far away in the demon realm, might not be able to get the benefits. There was no corresponding guarantee. Shinrei seemed to see through his concerns, and he said in time, "In order to show sincerity and ensure the smooth progress of the cooperation, I am willing to provide treasures of equal value or super value as collateral for the first batch of funds." Super value treasures as collateral? Kaneda's eyes lit up. In this way, the two concerns were gone. For him, this was a godsend opportunity. If he could grasp it, he would definitely be able to get rid of the current biggest financial predicament, and completely gain the upper hand in the competition with Joseph. "What I want to know is, how much does Sir need for the first batch of funds?" Kaneda thought for a while and asked. "How long can it take to get a return?" It seemed that the fish had begun to take the bait. Shinrei immediately answered this question. The top priority was to unfreeze the most important investment projects as soon as possible and return some of the precious funds as soon as possible. The second step was to gradually activate the rest of the projects to ensure the recovery of the huge business system and income. After all the conditions were ready, the construction of the Crystal City would finally be completed. The first step of unfreezing is the most important. The first batch of funds to be invested needs at least 40 million black crystal coins. At present, I still lack 7 million, which will be returned in installments. The first installment is 3 million, the second installment is 5 million, the third installment is 6 million, the total is 14 million. The first and second installments are the fastest. I should be able to return all of them in 1 month. For the third installment, I have to wait for the profit to reach the corresponding number. It will take a longer time. It is expected to be within 3 months. 7 million black crystal coins. Kaneda took a deep breath. As one of the 4 major estates, the Red Spirit Estate was already considered rich. The annual tax revenue of the entire estate was only about 5 million black crystal coins, not counting additional expenses. This number was a bit too amazing. Just the second installment alone could net 1 million. This profit was indeed high and cost-effective. To be honest, 7 million is just a fraction in my eyes in the past. Last year, our Cribbett family paid 4 billion black crystal coins in taxes to the Long Huang Empire. This is still the result of being suppressed by the second prince. It was more than this number in previous years. This number was not nonsense. Moreover, in that world, the tax of a building in a developed city could be equivalent to a city in the mainland. It could be said that comparisons were odious. The difference during the period could be imagined. Shinrei sighed. Things are unpredictable. I didn't expect that one day I would come to the demon realm for a mere 7 million black crystal coins. Mere 7 million. Kaneda swallowed hard in his throat. I have long heard of the prosperity of the human world, but I didn't expect it to reach this level. The tax paid by a family is 4 billion black crystal coins. These 4 billion, no, even if it is just 7 million into town molding, it will definitely be more than what it is now. Whether it is prosperity or personal strength, it will at least double, and it will be quite well off. The most important thing is that this is only the first step of the plan. As long as I participate in it, the subsequent financial resources will definitely roll in. As long as I have enough financial support, it will definitely not be a problem to defeat Joseph by then. This is a great opportunity, and it comes too timely. It is simply the light in the dark if everything is true. Kenita was not blinded by the sudden profits. After all, Samuel and Charles were both humans. If I can provide this fund, how can Sir ensure that the return can safely reach the demon realm? I did take a lot of risks this time, but as long as the plan is confirmed, I can use a secret treasure to establish a fixed space coordinate here. Half of this secret treasure is in the human world. It can use some precious materials as energy to travel back and forth safely. Unfortunately, it can only be used by one person at a time. Moreover, the magic crystal coins of the demon realm have a certain aura of dark elements. It takes a lot of brain power to get rid of them. Chenrei groaned. Since we have reached this point, Sir should understand my intention of coming here. You should also know that my time is very precious. Can you let me meet Sir Lord as soon as possible to discuss cooperation matters? Kenita's mind turned quickly, and he replied, Why must I meet the Lord? I think what Sir needs most is funds, not the identity of the partner. Chenrei narrowed his eyes. You mean? Kenita made up his mind, took a deep breath, and replied, 7 million, I can provide it. Even with 100 years of accumulation, it was not easy to gather this money in this difficult period. It could be described as innumerable what Kenita had, but the opportunity could not be missed. If Charles went to find other collaborators, he would miss this great opportunity. This is just the first batch of investment funds for the first step. The later stage needs far more than this number. The goal of the Kane family is not only to resolve the crisis, but also to completely turn the tables. Chenrei did not agree easily. Are you sure you have this strength? The more this attitude was, the more Kenita felt at ease. If there was really such a benefit, he certainly couldn't take it alone, but the most profitable initial investment must not be missed. As long as you can prove the feasibility of this plan, I can introduce and guarantee you in front of my father. The fact is the best reason to convince, Kenita said confidently. But to prove your sincerity, I want to see the treasure you provide as collateral. There was no proof. The most important thing was the actual thing. The collateral shown by the human was some equipment, and all of them were actually legendary grade. The brilliance of those equipment alone almost blinded Kenita's eyes. He could be sure that he had never seen so many legendary grade items in his life. Moreover, this was only a part of it. Kenita was a person who knew the value of these equipment. The precious value of these equipment could not be measured by money at all. He was determined at the moment, and smiled on his face. Kenita's new collaborator, Charles, also smiled. Chapter 321. Transfer, Discount, Expropriation. Kenita took a lot of effort to gather 7 million, which filled more than a dozen space rings. As Charles said, his time was quite precious. After getting the money, he launched the secret treasure in front of Kenita, opened a strange space door, and hurriedly left the demon realm. Samuel did not follow him, but he took the initiative to stay, which made Kenita more relieved. Kenita deliberately took out 1 or 2 pieces of human mortgage equipment and asked the mechanic to identify them. They were indeed legendary grade equipment. In case of any changes, with these things, at least they would not lose money. After emptying 7 million, the following days were tight. Kenita adopted Solana's proposal and still showed a tough attitude towards Joseph's forces on the surface. The effect of this kind of bravado was not bad. As expected, Joseph adopted the tactic of avoiding the brunt of the attack. He did not mention a word about the granary fire in Town Mordo and the matter of the elder, Flandy. He just pretended that nothing had happened and tried to continue to fight steadily to wear down the opponent. Only a few people, such as Kenita, knew that Town Moling was just an empty shell now. In the case of a shortage of funds, this momentum of being tough on the outside but weak on the inside could not be maintained for long. The key was whether Charles's promise could be fulfilled. Sometimes, the more hopeful the wait, the more torturous it was. When discussing the situation with Samuel alone once, Kenita couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you worried at all? Worried about Charles? Or worried about myself?" Samuel shook his head. "I have absolute trust in my brother. It was like this in the past, present, and future. This kind of unhesitant trust and sincere respect made Kaneda a little jealous. He had never had such a brother in his life. Since he was sensible, he and Joseph were sworn enemies. Don't worry. Samuel smiled slightly. If my brother can't come back, it is definitely not a problem of credibility, but a real difficulty. If such a day really comes, I will never run away, but I will continue to stay here to help you. To be able to get the help of Sir Samuel, let alone 7 million, even 10 times or 100 times is more than this value. Kaneda was overjoyed. Samuel was now his strongest combat power. If he could serve for a long time, coupled with the legendary great equipment that was mortgaged, even if Charles really didn't return, he would still make a lot of money. Of course, Kaneda didn't know that Samuel's absolute trust was based on the blood oath of light. The brother, whom he deeply believed in, did not go to the human world at all, but he was in town mulling right under his nose. He just changed his outfit and stayed in the hotel. Chinrui in the hotel did not waste time and directly entered the super system. His powerful strength was a real guarantee. His enemies were many and were very strong. If he wanted to compete with those enemies or even win, he must be to train. The most important thing in Migres State was to train the world power. Chinrui had tried it. As long as the world power could make a substantial breakthrough, strength, speed, spirit, and other aspects would make a leap. If he didn't train the world, and just simply improved his own quality, he wouldn't be able to increase it to a certain extent. It seemed that training, method, was the only way. Chinrui came to the training ground, but he chose the 100 times time rule. He calmed his mind and sat down cross-legged. Stars appeared around his body. It was the galaxy territory. There was no time limit for the skills in the training ground. Chinrui sat in the center of the galaxy territory, quietly feeling the rhythm and power of the stars. He was secretly in harmony with the concept of the galaxy in the super system. However, compared with the real galaxy in the super system, the galaxy territory was just like a shell without a real soul. In other words, it was just an illusion with a little special power. There was no real texture. Even after the power of Shura comprehended in the spiritual imprint was integrated into the galaxy territory, and became the dark star territory, this feeling of being an empty shell was still the same. What is missing? Is it the so-called rule? Or the rhythm? Anyway, I don't understand. The current galaxy territory could barely be called a pseudo-territory. It was already quite shocking that a great demon king could use this pseudo-territory that could only be comprehended by the demon emperor level. However, Chinrui didn't have the slightest complacency because he, who had the super system, had taken a completely different path from the demons or humans from the beginning. The method represented the real world or the real territory. Then, only by comprehending the truth of the real territory was the key to break through the method and reach the next realm of fusion. At present, it was still very far away. Chinrui put away the distracting thoughts and began to meditate. Gradually, wisps of black silk-like mist appeared from the galaxy territory. In the blink of an eye, it spread throughout the stars. The entire galaxy territory became gloomy and horrifying. This was no longer the appearance of the dark star territory, but Chinrui was still very calm. He said calmly, "You're here." A gloomy laughter came from the black mist. "It seems that you let me out on purpose?" This was Shura. Shura was a strange consciousness derived from Chinrui when he experienced the test of refined mind. It was also called the inner demon. Logically speaking, it should be annihilated with the passing of refined mind, but Shura did not disappear. Chinrui didn't know why it was like this. It was as if he had become an independent life. According to him, as long as the darkness in Chinrui's heart still existed, Shura would never truly perish. The appearance of Shura was within Chinrui's expectation because he had already eaten a Realm King fruit before entering the super system. This was already the last one, and it was also the last day of the validity of the Realm King fruit. There were a total of 3 Realm King fruits. The spiritual imprint produced by the Realm King fruits, illusion, had an extremely strong acceleration and strengthening effect on the Demon Emperor level pseudo-territory, but it only lasted for 3 months. The first one was eaten in the Crystal Valley. He obtained the spiritual imprint of Shura's dark power and combined it with the Galaxy territory to comprehend the Dark Star territory. The second one was eaten after returning to the Dark Moon. At that time, Shura appeared again, which surprised Shinrui. He finally defeated Shura with his will, making the dark power imprint deeper. At that time, Shinrui faintly felt that the imprint of this power seemed to have a deeper mystery. Therefore, even though he knew that consuming the Realm King fruit might be accompanied by the appearance of Shura, he still consumed the Realm King fruit without hesitation. Real gains were often accompanied by costs and dangers. Sailing against the current, one would either advance or retreat. The reason why Shinrui had today's power was that he waded against the current, step by step. You seem to have mastered the way to make me appear? Shura was not in a hurry to make a move. He asked with an evil smile. Shinrui said faintly, "Even if I don't get you out, you will come out sooner or later." Shura pondered. "You have potential, wisdom, and the perseverance and determination to pursue power. Why won't you accept my power? Is it because you reject the existence of darkness for some ridiculous reason? I can't deny the existence of darkness. It's like the change of yin and yang in the world. It's contradictory and opposite. It constitutes the foundation of this world. However, I have my own persistence. I will never give up some things. I will pursue power in my own way, and my determination is greater than you think." Shinrui suddenly smiled. "As for accepting power, aren't I doing it now? Stubborn!" Shura's face became more ferocious. He sneered. "You want to use me as a whetstone? I'm afraid your knife will break in a few moves." It doesn't seem to be the first time I heard this sentence. Shinrui looked like he was recalling. "But the fact is that this knife is getting sharper now. You seem to be very confident?" "Humph. Don't think that I'm limited by some kind of symbiotic rule and can't display strength that surpasses yours. You're not the only one who is constantly improving." The dark aura on the Shura's body slowly changed. "Over the past few days, a strange power in my body has gradually recovered. Although I don't know where this power comes from, I am certain that this is an ultimate power. The dark powers in the past can't be compared to it at all. You took the initiative to summon me this time. You are courting death. Your consciousness, your everything, I'm going to take it today." "Ultimate power?" Shinrui revealed a solemn expression. From Shura's appearance, he didn't seem to be bluffing. The dark aura that could cause various negative states gradually changed and fused into one aura. This aura was vast and profound. It was filled with an indescribable great meaning, as if it had existed between heaven and earth since ancient times. Shinrui only took a glance, and he had an irresistible feeling in his heart. Although limited by a certain rule, the level of power displayed by Shura indeed couldn't surpass Shinrui's main body. The quality contained in the power aura far exceeded that of Shinrui. It even exceeded all the powers he knew. Even the second powerhouse of the demon realm, Catherine, couldn't compare with it. What kind of power is this? Shinrui had no time to think. He took a deep breath and suppressed the fear in his heart. His hands released traces of black gas, and the surrounding stars suddenly turned into a black gemstone-like dark star territory. It quickly operated with his mind. Shura didn't move, but a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The aura suddenly increased, and the stars in the dark star territory exploded one after another. The entire galaxy territory immediately showed signs of collapse. Shinrui was shocked. The dark star territory, a skill formed purely by consciousness energy, was actually shattered by that terrifying power as if it was an entity. It could be said that this kind of unreasonable power rule had surpassed the category of consciousness. Shinrui knew that he couldn't take it at the first contact. There was no time limit for the skills in the training ground. However, in the blink of an eye, his strongest, dark star territory was already in danger. He would be defeated in the next moment. He initially wanted to use Shura's power to hone himself, but he didn't expect to encounter such a big danger. Are my consciousness and body really going to be devoured by Shura? At the moment when the dark star territory was about to collapse, Chinrui didn't hesitate at all. He immediately left the training ground and appeared in the super system's stellar territory. In the test of refined mind, Shura was defeated in this place. Naturally, it was still fresh in his memory. He snorted coldly and fully urged the aura on his body to spread to the super system's stellar territory. The power of the dark star territory was far from comparable to the real territory of the super system. Chinrui understood it this way. He was frightened by this aura in the training ground just now, and his fighting spirit was suppressed to the lowest point. He didn't have time to make more judgments. Now in the super system's galaxy, Chinrui finally realized the true feeling of this aura. There was actually a hint of familiarity. Destruction. Although this aura wasn't particularly strong, it was an extremely pure power of destruction. There were too many immortal existences in the universe with trillions of years of life or glory, but these couldn't escape the fate of destruction. Death was the eternal truth of the universe, just like birth. The cycle of life and death was originally the simplest and most mysterious eternal truth. Shura's aura of destruction had completely spread out, and the super system's galaxy began to shake. There was a faint sign of collapse in the space. Chinrui was taken aback. When he just advanced to the alias state, it was probably equivalent to the early stage of the Demon King. When the Demon Overlord level Glorfin invaded the galaxy, he relied on the power of the artifact, God-Eating Mask, to shake this galaxy. Now, Chinrui already had the power of the Great Demon King level, and Shura couldn't use a level stronger than him, but he could still affect and destroy the super system's galaxy. This was the difference in quality. Chinrui, whose spirit power was connected with the galaxy, was hit hard. His reaction was very fast, and he immediately responded. The space of the galaxy began to distort, and the planet suddenly disappeared, forming a strange black hole. A black hole was a celestial body with extremely strong gravity. It was a bottomless pit in the universe. Once any matter fell into it, it could no longer escape. Even light was no exception. However, this power of destruction actually disappeared as expected. Even the black hole began to distort strangely. However, Chinrui could already feel that the black hole evolved by the star-devouring mode was absorbing this power of destruction bit by bit. The expression on Shura's face finally began to panic. The energy devoured by star-devouring could be absorbed by star conversion and turned into his own use. It was the same when he swallowed Glorfin's consciousness power last time. However, the absorbed power this time did not appear in star conversion. Instead, it seemed to be absorbed by the super system itself. When Chinrui was casting star devouring, he was also savoring this seemingly familiar power of destruction. Suddenly, he remembered something. Shura, I know where you came from. Shura himself said that he was originally just a trace of energy that was about to disappear. He gained power and consciousness from the darkness of Chinrui's inner world, then he became the so-called inner demon. Moreover, when Chinrui went through refined mind, instead of disappearing, his independent consciousness became stronger and stronger. Now, he could even exert this kind of terrifying power. However, Shura himself didn't know where he came from. This was a mystery. Chinrui's unexpected sentence made Shura, who couldn't hold on any more, suddenly shocked. What am I? At this moment of distraction, the remaining power was suddenly swallowed up. Before he finished speaking, he had disappeared into the air. This short but thrilling battle was finally over. Shura just disappeared. He would appear again next time. Similarly, he would also be accompanied by this kind of terrifying power. The black hole gradually faded, and the stellar galaxy returned to its original brilliance and beauty. On the surface, it seemed no different from usual, but Chinrui could feel that there seemed to be a little more mysterious breath. It seemed to be a bit similar to that kind of destruction? Just now, he exposed Shura's origin was not a trick, but he really recalled it. The breath of destruction that Shura exuded was a little familiar. He had felt it in one place before. To be precise, it was an item. A box. A silver box. Chapter 322. 2,000 years ago, the poisoned dragon Paglio and the fairy dragon Rala teamed up to defeat the crystal dragon Jacob and the blue dragon Rainieri to obtain the silver box. Then, Paglio plotted against Rala to steal the treasure, but he was finally sealed by a mysterious powerhouse. The root of the battle between the demon overlord level and even the powerhouses beyond the demon overlord level was the mysterious silver box. Shinrei opened the silver box twice in the silent night wetland. As soon as the silver box was opened, the power of the demon realm royal family would be greatly suppressed, and their vitality would be devoured. Most importantly, when the fountain of vitality was opened for the first time, the vast and irresistible power of destruction that Shinrei felt seemed to be the most original rule power in the universe. Although the purity and level of Shura's breath were far weaker than the vast power felt in the silver box, the two should be from the same source. Shura should be just the inner demon of the Aliyah state. It already existed before Shinrei touched the silver box. However, this inner demon could actually have this kind of origin power that far surpassed the Aliyah state. There could only be one reason. After Shinrei opened the silver box in the silent night wetland, the strange energy that leaked out invaded his consciousness and merged with the inner demon, causing some kind of change. It could even be called evolution, and it had remained until now. The mysterious silver box was still soaking in the fountain of vitality at the bottom of Mountain Shilong, but Paglio repeatedly warned that he had to at least reach the demon overlord level to be qualified to know this biggest secret. Before that, he must not act rashly. Shinrei exited the super system and drank a bottle of spirit power potion. He didn't stay in the training ground for long just now, and he only had a short confrontation with Shura, but he felt more tired than 100 days of continuous training. What surprised him was that due to the magical effect of the Realm King fruit, a trace of the destructive breath released by Shura in the battle just now actually remained in the spiritual imprint. In other words, this aura had already been engraved in his memory. As long as he could understand its mysteries, he would be able to possess the most powerful origin energy. However, this aura was ancient and mysterious. It seemed to be simple destruction, but in reality, it contained endless mysteries. It was very difficult to comprehend it. Fortunately, he had left it in his mind. As long as Shinrei wanted to, he could comprehend it at any time. This was a great opportunity, and it was also the only way for him to truly subdue Shura in the future. 10 days had passed in the blink of an eye. In Kanita's expectation, Charles finally appeared in front of him. The space travel made the human's resolute face look a little tired, but his eyes were bright. The most reassuring thing for Kanita was that the human brought 3 million as promised. Kanita, who got 3 million, felt a lot more assured in his heart. Charles claimed that everything went smoothly according to the plan, and the first profit was successfully obtained. However, time was precious, and he couldn't stay here. He just encouraged Samuel a few words and left in a hurry. After another 10 days, Charles came again with an excited face and brought another 5 million. For Kanita, this was already a profitable deal. He had at least made a profit of 1 million. Although he was a little reluctant, he still returned the mortgaged legendary grade equipment to the human. In Kanita's more than 100 years of experience, it was the first time that he made such a large amount of money so easily, and this big deal was just the beginning. As the human said, the dark element breath on the black crystal coins was removed, but the money was real. It could definitely circulate normally, which made some of Kanita's original doubts disappear. The first step of starting has been successful. If I want to unfreeze the investment projects one by one, I need to add more investments later. I believe that you are a visionary collaborator, so you won't give up because of this short and meager income. if I want to get the return of the third phase, I must ensure that the funds continue to follow up. For the second step, the funds are still short of 50 million black crystal coins. This rate of return is 70%, and it will still be returned in 3 phases. For businessmen, time is money. I hope this fund can be in place as soon as possible. 50 million? Kaneda was taken aback. This fund was far beyond what he could afford. It seemed that he couldn't afford it by himself. Anyway, he had already gotten a net profit of 1 million black crystal coins now, and there would be a huge sum of 6 million coming in. At this time, if he recommended Charles to his father, not only he could conditionally seek mutual benefits, but it would also be a great contribution. It just so happens that my father has finished training a few days ago. I will take you to Red Spirit City now. I will guarantee you in front of my father, but the premise is that the 6 million in the third phase must be included in my second investment. Kaneda's calculation was very good. Anyway, he had already recovered his capital and made a small profit. The remaining profits would be used to make more money so that he could avoid risks. Now that the human was asking him for help, he could take this opportunity to raise conditions. Shinrei replied firmly. This won't work. In order to honor your first investment, I have given you all the initial profit of the principal. The remaining 6 million will take 3 months to earn. These 50 million black crystal coins are hard investments. Not a single cent can be missing. There is an old saying that goes, don't do things without benefits. I have dealt with merchants many times, and I believe that Your Excellency will not do anything that does not benefit you. The so-called concession is just for a greater benefit. To be able to use this money to earn the most important trust, Your Excellency should be more calculative than I am. Besides, 6 million is just a fraction for Sir's grand plan. Shinrei pondered for a moment, but he still insisted that the current hard investment of 50 million could not be less. However, he promised to give an additional 20% to Kaneda when he returned the 6 million in the third phase. Kaneda faintly tested the other party's bottom line. It seemed that it was really a big deal. Anyway, he earned another one. 2 million. Finally, he nodded contentedly. In this way, Shinrei and Kaneda rode the mutant griffin mount and arrived at Red Spirit City at the fastest speed. The scale of Red Spirit City was slightly smaller than Dark Moon City, but most of Dark Moon City was an empty shell left from the most prosperous period hundreds of years ago. There were not many families or buildings with real weight. Red Spirit City was much more prosperous, but compared with the Dark Shadows capital, it could only be regarded as a medium-sized city that was worth seeing. Contrary to the barrenness of the Dark Moon, the Red Spirit Estate was fertile, rich in food, and rich in magic stone mineral and forestry resources. As one of the richest estates of the fallen Angel Empire, the position of Red Spirit Lord was definitely a lucrative position. The Alvin family had been operating in the Red Spirit Estate for thousands of years. They had a deep foundation which was far from comparable to Crown Prince Grimm, who was temporarily exiled to the Dark Moon. Especially the current Red Spirit Lord, Josh. After the death of the Lord of Midnight's son, he decisively chose to support the correct decision of Prince Obsidian, which made the development of the Red Spirit Estate smooth. As the most important chess piece for Regent Obsidian to monitor and control the Dark Moon Estate, Josh also completed the task well. Over the years, no matter how hard Crown Prince Grimm or Jia tried, they could not change the deteriorating situation of the Dark Moon Estate. Although there were some problems in Mountain Shilong a while ago, the two lifelines of the Dark Moon's economy and food were still firmly controlled by the Red Spirit in any case. They had already strangled the opponent's throat. It would depend on Obsidian's words to kill it. Kaneda took Shinrei and rushed to the Lord's mansion without stopping. He directly asked to see his father, Josh. Soon, Shinrei met the biggest neighbor and enemy of the Dark Moon Estate. Josh's appearance was a middle-aged man with a medium build. His face was cold, and his eyes were like sharp knives. He had a kind of intimidating aura without being angry. Race, Great Demon mutated. Comprehensive Strength Assessment, A-. Physique, B+, Strength, B, Spirit, agility B+. Josh's human form was already the strength of the early stage of the Demon Emperor level. According to Athena, the great demon maintained the human form to reduce consumption and accumulate the power obtained from training. Once he transformed into the combat form, his combat power would greatly increase. The higher the level, the more so. Without Paglio's converging combat power skills, Athena's human form was still the peak of the Demon King level, but once she transformed, she could reach the early stage of the Great Demon King level. Although Demon King and Great Demon King were only one word apart, the difference in strength was more than 10 times. Before Chunrei came to the Red Spirit, he had personally experienced Athena's combat power after transformation. It was really a lot stronger. Of course, it was on another battlefield. Therefore, when Josh transformed into the combat state, he might climb to the intermediate stage of the Demon Emperor. At that time, Chunrei killed Sabrina, who was at the early stage of the Demon Emperor, when the other party's combat power was at its lowest point after being schemed against, and he almost failed. Now he was facing a powerhouse who had firmly mastered the Demon Emperor level and pseudo-territory power. Even if Chunrei's current strength had grown a lot compared to when he was in the Crystal Valley, there was still no possibility of winning in a head-on battle. It was not only the difference in the strength of the major realm, but also the huge difference in quality between the middle level and the upper level. Facing his father, Josh, Kanita had long lost his usual calmness. He showed considerable awe. After asking Josh to dismiss his servants, Kanita bowed and said Chunrei's identity in the human world and his intentions. Josh looked a little surprised. While listening, his eyes flickered. He examined Chunrei as if he wanted to see through him. Kanita just described the relevant process in detail, but he did not add his own subjective will because he knew that his father, Josh, had always been suspicious and would have his own judgment on this matter. If he said too much, it would cause unnecessary suspicion instead. Josh began to think in his heart. His eyes never left Chunrei. An invisible sense of oppression shrouded him. For Chunrei, who had experienced demon overlord level tests like Manu and Jacob, this kind of oppression was nothing. Moreover, during the refined mind moment with Shura, he had experienced even more terrifying scenes, so Chunrei seemed calm and not flustered at all. Demons have an old saying, there is never reaping without sowing. Josh frowned slightly, turned his eyes to Kanita, and said coldly, I'm very disappointed in you. You actually believe in a human's little trick? A mere 1 million black crystal coins can make you lose your usual calmness? You can't even see through this little trick? You can't even find an imp in the corner of the city. His deception is better than this guy. Kanita was sweating profusely. He lowered his head and did not dare to explain. Chunrei was mentally prepared for Josh's attitude. After all, he was an old guy who had lived for hundreds of years. His mind was definitely not simple. Otherwise, he would not have controlled the Dark Moon's lifeline for so many years. I'm also very disappointed in you, Sir Kanita. Chunrei sighed. You always told me how wise and decisive your father, Sir Lord, is. I didn't expect to see you in person. I have to admit that this meeting is a failure. I must change to a more reliable partner as soon as possible. Your biggest failure is to choose me, Josh Alvin, as the target of deception. Josh slowly stood up, and the murderous look in his eyes became more and more intense. You have no chance to change any so-called partner. Your head will be my wine container. The violent elemental power was like a huge wave that instantly wrapped Chunrei. The Demon Emperor level power was no trivial matter. Although the power had been compressed, the entire hall still began to tremble slightly. Kanita's face was pale. I still want to make a great contribution this time, but I didn't expect such a result. Short-sighted demons. Despite the strong pressure, Chunrei unexpectedly showed a strong attitude. For him who had experienced the surfy sea training, this kind of huge wave oppression was easier to deal with. He just slightly changed the power in his body to minimize the pressure from Josh. Even so, the demon emperor level power still made him feel extremely strenuous. In Kanita's eyes, this human can actually compete with his father's demon emperor level aura, and they are equally matched. No wonder Samuel is so respectful. Have you seen the prosperity of the human world? Do you know what the top business family of the Holy Empire represents? Just a day's liquidity can buy a few small estates like yours. Shinrei's body faintly exuded a faint breath. Although it couldn't be compared with Josh's huge wave power, the almost pure to the extreme destructive power made Josh secretly startled. This human's power is by no means the early stage of the great demon king on the surface. Is he also a demon emperor level powerhouse? Not to mention a mere million or 10 million, even if it's hundreds of millions or billions, my Tribute family will not blink. Shinrei's tone seemed to be greatly insulted. If it weren't for the urgent need for funds to start and unfreeze to brew the power to fight back, as the next patriarch of the Tribute family, why would I come to the demon realm for this little money? Josh snorted coldly. No matter how attractive your reason is, it is useless. Humans and demons are originally mortal enemies. Since you have the courage to come here, you should have the awareness of death. If it is the Holy War period 200 years later, my purpose of coming to the enemy's rear may be to deceive or destroy, but now, don't you think this sentence is ridiculous? As far as I know, even the regent of your empire has a trustworthy human friend. Even if you are right, so what? The rule of the demon realm is that the strong are respected. I don't need to explain any reason to you if I kill you. Josh's gaze became colder and colder. His body was burning with a light blue flame. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped to an extremely low level. Kanita, who was weaker, had begun to tremble. You can't kill me, demons! Shinrei sighed. And you don't know how much benefit you have given up. By then, you will regret it without me taking the initiative to retaliate. Josh was unmoved. He raised his index finger, and an imprint wrapped in a blue flame jumped out of his fingertip. The entire room began to flicker with crystal light. The seemingly beautiful crystal light was filled with an extremely dangerous breath. Even Kanita could see that his father's murderous intent was by no means a bluff. Chapter 323. Facing the countless crystals full of terrifying chill, an object in Shinrei's hand emitted a strong light. A strange blue light door appeared in the air. Kanita recognized that this light door was the space door that Charles used to travel between the demon realm and the human world. He immediately exclaimed, "He wants to return to the human world!" Josh's eyes flashed with hostility. The symbol wrapped in the blue flame on his fingertips suddenly burst open. The room instantly turned into an ice world. Shinrei, who was in the center, was wrapped in a compressed small snowstorm. What was even more surprising was that the snowstorm was accompanied by strange lightning. Shinrei could faintly feel that the water elements and the wind elements seemed to be perfectly integrated. This was the power of the compound elements. Under normal circumstances, a mage could only use one type of elemental power at the same time, but there were a few talented people who could use two or more elements at the same time. Furthermore, they could fuse these two elemental powers that were originally difficult to fuse into one through a special method and unleash extraordinary power. This was the power of the compound elements. The power of the compound magic was by no means as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. It was enough to cause several times the effect. However, this compound process was full of danger. If one was not careful in the training process, one might hurt oneself. If one did not have an extremely profound understanding of the magic elements, and had extraordinary control, it would be impossible to succeed. Of course, not all elements could be mixed together. For example, water elements and fire elements, wind elements and earth elements, light elements and dark elements were mortal enemies of each other. Under normal circumstances, they could not be combined. Josh was able to become one of the 4 major lords. He could not succeed just by following the trend and standing in the right camp. His own strength was also an important factor. With a thought from Shinrei, a translucent blue shield appeared around him. He was actually not affected by the snowstorm. He walked toward the light door step by step. Although the blue shield began to crack quickly under the power of the snowstorm, according to the progress of this pace, he could walk into the light door before the shield shattered. Josh immediately changed his tactics and waved his hand toward the light gate. Countless ice crystals poured into the light gate with a sizzling sound, but they passed through it as if it was just a phantom that did not exist. Shinrei had walked to the front of the light gate and took a step. To Josh's surprise, the human had half of his foot in the gate. It was not the kind of crossing like the ice crystal just now. This strange gate was by no means an illusion. Josh frowned. If it is the time gate of the water element, the ice crystals mixed with territory power should be able to interfere with or eliminate this gate, but it is not affected at all. I don't even feel any fluctuation of water elements. Is it really the lost space power? Shinrei's mind raced, and he took a step forward. But then he retracted his hand and pointed at the spatial gate, causing it to vanish. This move was beyond the expectations of Josh and Kanita. Shinrei opened his 5 fingers, and the shield that originally protected him disappeared. Give up my life? Was this human crazy? What does he want to do? Sir Josh. After removing the shield, Shinrei's feet were already covered with a thin layer of ice, but his fiery gaze fell on Josh's face. We humans also have a saying, there's no free lunch in the world. I hope to prove my sincerity in cooperation with this almost suicidal performance. Josh's eyes narrowed slightly. The snowstorm did not wrap up immediately, and he did not speak. As the heir of a family, I must take responsibility. Now I will take your magic right here. Shinrei's voice was sonorous and powerful. I believe any liar will not take this risk with his life. Josh snorted coldly, and the snowstorm immediately wrapped up. It was mixed with flashing lightning, raging the human figure in the center. Even Kanita, who was a spectator on the side, was terrified. The snowstorm gradually dissipated, and the crystal lights in the room were extinguished one by one. The human in the center had solidified into an ice sculpture. Except for the head, all parts were firmly frozen. A sizzling thunderball rose in Josh's hand. As long as this thunderball hits you, your body will turn into a mass of powder. However, I deliberately left your head for your last words. The Demon Emperor level power was by no means child's play, especially the powerful compound elemental power. Shinrei's lips had been frozen purple, and his skin had turned bluish white. These were just the surface symptoms. The elemental power that broke through the surface defense raged in the body, and the destructive trauma and pain almost exceeded his endurance limit. In the eyes of Josh and Kanita, although the muscles of the human's face were distorted due to pain and his voice was a little trembling, his eyes were still firm. I will only say the last word, sincerity. Josh's face was full of murderous intent. The thunderball flew toward Shinrei's body and hit him. The sound of shattering suddenly sounded. However, it was not Shinrei's body that shattered, but the solid ice that wrapped him. This move was just right. It could be seen that Josh's magic control had reached the peak. No matter which world, strength and courage are worthy of respect. Human, I have to say that you have successfully shown your sincerity. Josh's murderous intent gradually converged. He returned to the throne and sat down again. When he finished the sentence, the world of ice and snow in the room had disappeared as if nothing had happened. Shinrei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had bet on the right place just now. Josh did not use the real killer move. It was more of a test. Moreover, when Shinrei judged that the opponent had the compound magic of the 2 elements of wind and water, the armor had already silently added the corresponding items to resist the wind and water elements, and reduce the power of magic. Coupled with the 2 passive attributes of damage absorption, that reduced the damage by 30%, and magic resistance, that reduced the magic damage by half, the damage of the magic just now had been reduced to a minimum. Even if the thunderball really had murderous intent, it would not shatter his body. He could still summon the Stargate again to escape. However, in that case, all the previous efforts would be wasted. Josh was really difficult to deal with. Fortunately, the trick of injuring himself was successful. The most difficult beginning was considered past. Sir Lord has such a powerful compound magic, especially the control of the elements. It can be described as the peak. Despite this, Chenrei still suffered a lot of injuries. He immediately drank the cold resistance potion and recovery potion. He praised, "Even the Saint Wizard of the Holy Empire's Wizard Tower is a little inferior." Josh accepted this praise calmly. "Your strength should have faintly reached the early stage of the Demon Emperor. By the way, according to you humans, you have already touched the edge of the Saint level." Kaneda nodded secretly. This powerful human has indeed reached the Demon Emperor level. Josh's judgment was based on, firstly, the pure destructive breath emitted by the human previously, and secondly, the human's adaptation to the territory power and the endurance to resist magic. However, he did not know that this confident judgment was actually overestimating the opponent. The previous destructive breath was a little insight that Chenrei realized in the spiritual imprint. At present, he could barely make the breath overflow. In fact, it was just an empty shell to scare people. As for the adaptation to the territory and the endurance to resist magic, it could only be said to be the attributes of the super system and the magical effect of the equipment. "Sir has good eyesight." Chenrei did not explain, and he nodded slightly. "It's just that I can feel that Sir seems to have only used a little bit of power. If you use your real power, I would have died completely just now." Josh smiled noncommittally. "Please sit down." Since this human was also a Demon Emperor, existence, at least he had the power to talk with me on an equal footing. Chenrei sat down. "I understand Sir Lord's mood. I'm a human, and I'm here to make Sir pay a lot of money. But, as Sir said earlier, there is no such thing as reaping without sowing. Without paying, how can there be a gain? To be honest with Sir, tens of millions or hundreds of millions of black crystal coins are really nothing with the financial resources of my Tribbett family, but it is a particularly difficult period now. There is an urgent need for funds to unfreeze those restricted investment projects." Josh did not wait for him to finish and interjected. "Mr. Charles, your words are too vague. I hope to understand every detail you said. This is the most basic prerequisite for our cooperation." Chenrei thought for a while and explained the general situation of the Tribbett family. He first introduced the family's financial resources, industry and huge influence, and then mainly highlighted the feud with the second prince, Garfield. Under Garfield's means, the Tribbett family was suddenly and comprehensively banned. The family's various sources of funds were frozen, and investment projects were forced to stop operating. The most important thing was that the Crystal City that Rex the Great handed over to the Tribbett family to complete also stopped progress. Once it could not be completed within the specified time, the second prince would take the opportunity to kill, causing the entire Tribbett family to fall into eternal damnation. In this adversity, the original friends had adopted a wait-and-see attitude or even defected. It was becoming more and more difficult to maintain the liquidity of the huge business system. Even if they wanted to sell real estate or commodities for cash, no one was willing to buy them. The startup capital was only a few million yuan away. If this continued, the Tribbett family would collapse before the completion of the Crystal City. In this most difficult period, Patriarch Carlo thought of his other son, Samuel, who went to the Demon Realm to train. The Demon Realm might be the only hope that could help the family through the difficulties. As the heir of the family, Charles volunteered to come to the Demon Realm and successfully built a connection with Kaneda. After Kaneda invested the first 7 million yuan, the deadlock was finally broken. Then, through a series of means such as the return of funds, the situation was greatly alleviated, and the benefits obtained were handed over to Kaneda. At present, there were still many investment projects that needed funds to be activated. The Tribbett family had gathered nearly 200 million yuan, and it was expected that they still needed 50 million black crystal coins. Since Kaneda could no longer solve it, he came to seek help from Lord Josh. Chenrei's words were true in falsehood. The Crystal City was indeed the mission of the Tribbett family, and Carlo was having a headache about this, but the situation was far from as bad as Chunrei said. When explaining, Chunrei added some economic management terms such as marginal cost, moral hazard, and supply law from time to time. Even though Josh was scheming, he was still dizzy listening to it. He only felt that the human business methods were really extraordinary. No wonder the human world was much more prosperous than the demon realm. Chunrei went around in a big circle and finally turned back. There are still 50 million black crystal coins left. The return rate is 70%, and the total is 83.5 million. Just like my promise to Sir Kaneda, I will return it in 3 installments. My brother Samuel will continue to stay in the demon realm as a representative of sincerity. Josh did not immediately promise, but he said calmly, in any case, the demon realm and humans are always enemies. Mr. Charles, aren't you afraid that this matter will be revealed in the future, which will implicate your entire family? This future will have to wait for at least 200 years. This is my personal behavior. I will bear any responsibility alone. As long as the Cribbett family can maintain its value to the Empire, it will flourish. Chunrei shrugged disapprovingly. What's more, our human lifespan is not as long as the demons. 200 years, even if there are no accidents, I will almost die of old age. This is not a problem. It is undeniable that your proposal makes me tempted, but... Josh nodded. First, I still can't trust you. Even if you leave your brother in the demon realm, it cannot be a real guarantee for this cooperation. Second, assuming what you said is true, our cooperation is effective. However, even if 50 million can get 83.5 million in return for saving your family, I think it is still far from enough. If Sir Lord is willing to cooperate, then 50 million is just the beginning. You will get more benefits later, but the premise is that you must invest. It is equivalent to Sir Lord using my Cribbett family's operational ability and the huge business system in the human world to make a profit. After this difficulty, the subsequent rate of return will gradually stabilize. It is expected to be about 10%. Our cooperation time can be longer, but for the sake of the time of the Holy War, this time cannot exceed 100 years. Josh looked like he was thinking. In fact, he had already begun to think in his heart. Although the Red Spirit Estate is a relatively rich estate in the fallen angel empire, it cannot be compared with the rich human world after all. If I can cooperate with the largest business family in the human world, then the benefits will be unimaginably huge. Even if the estate encounters more crop failures or changes, it can also ensure a steady flow of wealth into the account. With money, there will be a more powerful army and combat power. Maybe I can also realize some ambitions that I didn't dare to think about before. The most important thing is that with such favorable conditions, the other party does not have to rely on the Red Spirit Estate. If it is the Blue Lava Estate or the White Feather Estate, or even a major force other than the fallen angel empire, they will also choose to cooperate. It seems that Kaneda is very lucky to be able to accept Samuel by chance. As for the trust issue, a light appeared in Chunrei's hand. This cooperation contract is an equality contract. As long as both of us sign this contract, even if my brother Samuel leaves the demon realm, it will not have any impact on the cooperation between us. Sir Lord, what do you think? The equality contract was a high-level contract. Generally, only Demon Emperor-level powerhouses could perform it. Josh felt the power of that contract, and he no longer had any doubts. He showed a rare smile. I think we can discuss the details of the cooperation next. Chunrei also smiled because this contract was created by him with a spiritual link. The attribute was cancelable. It was really not easy to get past Josh, and he even paid a high price, but the result was very satisfactory because this big fish was finally hooked. Chapter 324. In Josh's opinion, Charles was resolute and even risked his life for the family. He was by no means comparable to those liars. With Kaneda's experiment, first and Samuel as a hostage, more importantly, both parties also signed an equality contract. For this reason, Josh mercilessly killed the former servant to nullify the master-servant contract so that a new contract could be signed. With this contract, both parties would be equal and cooperative for 100 years. If Charles did not rebate according to the contract, he would be severely punished. Therefore, Josh took out the funds with ease. As the lord who had ruled the Red Spirit estate for many years, his accumulation was by no means comparable to Kenita. There was no need to sell everything. 50 million black crystal coins appeared in front of Chen-Rui happily. Seeing this large amount of shiny coins, Chen-Rui really wanted to tell this Sir Lord that sometimes empiricism was more likely to make mistakes. He would use the latter facts to help Josh teach this lesson. Kenita took out an additional 5 million to continue to participate in the shares. Chen-Rui initially insisted on only 50 million to avoid losing more profits, but under Kenita's repeated requests, he reluctantly agreed. Chen-Rui took away 55 million this time. There was a monthly rebate. The first rebate was 20 million, the second was 40 million, and the third was 33.5 million. It was a total of 93.5 million black crystal coins. Chen-Rui accepted the money. Then, in front of Josh, he used the item to open the time portal to the human world, walked in, and disappeared. Josh saw it clearly. This time and space gate was summoned by the human when the two of them were fighting. It was extremely mysterious. The human had given up the chance to escape previously. With this sincerity and the contract, there should be no problem. Now he could wait patiently. Chen-Rui actually returned to town mulling through the Stargate. At the critical moment of life and death facing Josh's strong pressure just now, he seemed to have a little more understanding of the use of the power of destruction. He urgently needed to find a quiet place to comprehend it. He had wanted to immediately return to the remote hotel to cultivate, but he saw that there were many more guests in the hotel. These days, Chen-Rui had booked a room and had been cultivating in it. He had even set up a soundproof system and had not gone out at all. When he left the hotel in the morning to look for Kenita, he noticed this lively scene, but he didn't ask about it because his business was urgent at that time. Now he had the intention to ask about it so that his training would not be disturbed unnecessarily. 2 days later, it will be the triennial trade fair of the Red Spirit. The hotel's succubus waitress winked at the great demon, inadvertently showing him the deep cleavage revealed by her bulging breasts and V-neck. Unfortunately, it was like playing the lute to a cow. The great demon didn't even look at her. Trade fair? This is the first time I've heard of it. Tell me, what's going on? This weird man who hid in his room every day didn't have the charms of a great demon male. Was there something wrong with him? The succubus maliciously guessed for a while, but she didn't dare to easily offend this higher demon. She explained with a charming smile. The trade fair of the Red Spirit estate had a long history. It was held once every 3 years. People could trade or exchange goods, including special products, materials, equipment, and other types. Each time, it could attract a large number of outsiders. It was originally held in the Red Spirit City, but due to Kenita's efforts, it had been held in town Moling since 20 years ago. This was considered Josh's care for his most important youngest son. For Joseph, who had stronger economic strength, it was also a means of balance. The trade fair was a centralized commodity trade fair. It was a relatively grand trade form in the demon realm. The demon realm did not have auction houses or auctions yet. Chen-Rui had long planned to set up an auction house in the Dark Moon. All the preparations were complete, and he was just waiting for the right time. Chen-Rui thought of one thing. He extorted a lot of good things from the Crystal Valley last time. The materials for the second, thunderous sound, were basically complete. He only lacked 2 rare materials. Besides, he also planned to make a scale armor, which required a lot of auxiliary materials. He wanted to see if he could gather them at this trade fair. Originally, he could go to the Shadow Empire's Mechanic Association to receive the Master's welfare, or exchange it with the reward contribution points for cracking the magic circle last time. It was just that Master Arthur was currently missing, so it was not suitable for him to appear again for the time being. This scale armor was an impromptu idea he came up with after his previous fight with Josh. The main material was the superb crystal dragon scales of the crystal dragon, Jacob. These superb dragon scales were even given to Chinrui by Jacob's initiative at that time. If Sir Crystal Dragon remembered it now, he would definitely vomit blood in anger. Of course, compared with things such as the ancient runes slate and the Fountain of Resurrection, the crystal dragon scales were just child's play. The crystal dragon was gifted to be immune to all magic powers. This scale armor naturally had the effect of greatly reducing the power of magic elements. If it could be made successfully, coupled with his own characteristics of anti-magic and damage absorption, the success rate of dealing with magic trainers like Josh would be greatly improved. The trade fair would begin in 2 days. At present, it was better to seize the precious inspiration to realize the power of the destruction breath. After instructing not to disturb, Chinrui walked straight into the room, ignoring the hostess's deliberate provocation, causing the succubus to curse, "Incompetent man," in her heart. 2 days later, Chinrui walked out of the room, looking energetic. Pressure was sometimes the best motivation. This time, he gained a lot, and his understanding of the power of destruction had further improved. Due to the trade fair, the mobile population of town Moling suddenly increased, and the streets seemed very lively. Chinrui came to the location of the trade fair. It was a huge open space that was circled. From a distance, it was full of people. There were 4 passages for entry and exit. The entrances and exits were guarded by soldiers, and there were also patrolling soldiers to maintain order inside. This situation was somewhat similar to Chinrui's hometown on Earth. Every year at the exhibition held in the stadium, the merchants were vendors from other places, but most of them were fake and counterfeit goods. Chinrui once helped his grandpa buy a pair of Inner Mongolian yak leather shoes, but the soles broke in less than 2 months. Walking into the trade fair, there were indeed a lot of vendors inside. Some were shouting loudly, and some hung a sign to promote the goods for sale or items to be exchanged. Chinrui walked for a while and exuded a little breath to scare away the 2 ignorant thieves. He stopped in front of a deserted stall. The stall owner was a dark dwarf. He had a lot of things, and some of them looked like antiques with a long history. Chinrui was not interested in the so-called antiques. What he was interested in was a bottle of Bauhinia gum that could be blended into the adhesive needed to make scale armor. "Sir really has a good eye. This bottle of Bauhinia gum is from the best Bauhinia tree. It is 50 years old, and it only costs 3 black crystal coins. The older the Bauhinia gum, the stronger its toughness." For Chinrui's use, 50 years was enough, but the price of this dark dwarf was not low. Although 2 black crystal coins were nothing for Chinrui now, he suddenly missed the days when he used to bargain for cabbages in that world. He shook his head. 3 black crystal coins are too expensive. I can offer 1 black crystal coin at most. The dark dwarf's eyes widened all of a sudden. "Sir, this price is too low. The best discount is only 10 purple crystal coins. This is already the price of a regular customer. 3 black crystal coins, including the black spirit snake's snake tendon, is more like it. That is a rare complete snake tendon. Its toughness is even stronger than the hydra's tendon. For both I'll give you a discount. A total of 7 black crystal coins, no less. For black crystal coins. If you don't want to sell it, then forget it. I will find another stall," Chinrui said, looking like he was about to leave. "Wait. Sir, I'll sell it to you." The dark dwarf sighed. "Sir is even more shrewd than the smartest dark dwarf." Chinrui took out 4 black crystal coins. When he saw the dark dwarf's flickering eyes, he knew that it was still a loss. His bargaining ability was actually not high. The girlfriend of one of his roommates in college was really good. If she transmigrated, she could probably get it for 2 black crystal coins at most. However, not to mention 4 black crystal coins, even if there were 4 or 5 zeros behind it, it was just a drizzle. The Poison Dragon's treasure, Crystal Dragon's crystal mine plus Josh and his sons' investment. Although the storage warehouse could summarize and compress similar items, and the 4-star warehouse space was already quite huge. There was only half of the space left. If Chenrui packed up and ran away now, then it would not be a problem for him to be corrupted freely for hundreds or thousands of years. But his goal was further. This time, if he wanted to play, he would play big. Sir, I don't know what else you need. There are some good things that I can't sell. The black spirit snake tendon and bauhinia gum had actually made this profiteer a profit. He also recommended some valuable antiques to him, such as artifacts used by a certain emperor. Unfortunately, Chenrui was not interested, so he stood up. Please wait a minute. Sir. The dark dwarf didn't want this rare customer to leave just like that. He revealed a mysterious look, looked around carefully, and took out a box from his pocket. There were 3 walnut-sized balls in it. This is called a burst bomb. It is said to be an antique found in a ruin. As long as the yellow crystal is activated with power, it can explode horribly. The person who sold it to me once tested it. It can blast a big pit of tens of meters on the ground. It is more powerful than ordinary magic. 3 of them only cost 10 black crystal coins in total. Enhanced version of grenade? But in this world, this thing didn't have much effect. A real powerhouse only needed an energy bomb or magic to far exceed the effect of this thing. After the dark dwarf repeatedly reminded him not to trigger the yellow crystal, Chenrui picked up one and looked at it. Suddenly his eyes narrowed. On this so-called burst bomb, there were countless tiny inscriptions engraved densely. It was dragon inscription. The effect of the inscription was actually multiple suppression. In other words, the big pit of tens of meters was the effect after being strongly suppressed by the inscription. This was not a burst bomb. According to the name on the inscription, it should be called serene. If all the power was activated according to the sequence of the inscription, the power would at least increase by dozens of times. God knows which dragons made this terrifying thing when they were bored. God knows how many of them were wasted by those ignorant guys. If this thing was used properly, it might become a life-saving treasure. Chenrui's eyes fell on a folded leather scroll at the bottom of the box. It seemed to be quite old. He opened it and looked at it. A strange expression flashed across his eyes, then he put it back in its original place. The dark dwarf quickly introduced. This treasure map was passed down from my ancestors. It is said to record the secret of the Dead Sea. This secret was left by the Dark Dragon Emperor who dominated the demon realm hundreds of thousands of years ago. There are countless treasures and artifacts in it. Chenrui showed an indifferent look. It's just an incomplete map. Even if it's true, looking at this, you need at least 5 or 6 pieces to be complete. If you get a complete one, you might be able to bluff people. The dark dwarf smiled awkwardly. This is indeed true, but a complete one. If I had it, would I need to come here to set up a stall? Chenrui nodded. Do you still have the burst bomb? When I received it, there were only these 3. Well, I want the 3 burst bombs. Together with this box and the broken map at the bottom, a total of 3 black crystal coins. The dark dwarf was anxious and reached out to grab the box. This is absolutely not possible. I will collect these 3 things for more than 3 black crystal coins. Let alone the ancestral treasure map. If you sincerely want it, I will give you 10 black crystal coins. I can't go any lower. Chenrui saw him asking for an exorbitant price and sneered. The things made by this kind of alchemist are extremely unstable. Even if they are not triggered, there is a possibility of explosion. If there is any problem, the entire trade fair will be in chaos because of the explosion. If you sell such dangerous things, as long as I shout, the patrolling guards will immediately arrest you. With that said, Chenrui glanced at the patrolling guards walking this way. The dark dwarf was taken aback. He quickly wanted to grab the box, but he grabbed nothing. Profiteer had a dejected look on his face. Sir, 3 it is. Can I count myself unlucky? I, Mumu, have been attending trade fairs for more than 10 years, but this is the first time I see a guest like Sir. Don't pretend, I know you didn't lose anything. Chenrui put away the box calmly and left the booth, but he was ecstatic in his heart. I definitely made a big profit this time. As long as the restriction of the inscription is unlocked, the power of the three, Zeri, will definitely be quite amazing. Even a demon emperor or even a demon overlord will be afraid. Not only that, the incomplete map was also an unexpected surprise because he already had 2 of this map. One was obtained from Dodo in the Black Rainforest, which should be left by the dead dragons. The other was presented by Kaneda when he encountered the little black horse a while ago. Including this one, he had 3. The Dead Sea was located in the extreme north of the demon realm. The sea was vast and dangerous. It was a well-known dangerous place. He didn't know whether the treasure of the Dark Dragon Emperor was real or not, but the map he got today seemed to be the middle part. In the storage warehouse, when the 3 incomplete magic maps were put together, they actually merged together and became a whole. Even the seams on the edges were gone. Looking at the size, it seemed that there were still 2 more to gather. Now, Shinrei didn't have the time to focus on this. Besides, some things just didn't appear when he was deliberately looking for it. Sometimes, if he was lucky, it would automatically appear in front of him. Shinrei walked around the trade fair, bought some materials, and returned to the hotel. The materials needed for Thunderous Sound were too scarce, so he couldn't find them at the trade fair. The scale armor was gathered, but he had to design it another day before starting. The following time was still training. Training, eating, sleeping, training, it was a cycle. Although it was boring and monotonous, he did not have the slightest thought of giving up. Josh's words were right. There was never reaping without sowing. Especially power. To obtain it, one must be able to do what others couldn't. Only by going through the hardships could one become the best. It was the same in any world. Chapter 325. Dark Moon City Arena. The ancient arena was brightly lit. The original dilapidated parts were also repaired. It was full of people. Even the strongest higher demon battle, Agua vs. Eryx, didn't have so many spectators. After the Dark Moon War 400 years ago, this arena was full for the first time. Does this lively and vibrant scene faintly indicate that the fallen Angel Empire's most prosperous estate has begun to recover? The field was not a one-on-one contest as in the past, but a group of people battled the battle ball. About 2 months ago, the arena held a free competitive game between the Imperial Guards and the garrison army. From that time on, the Dark Moon people began to like this passionate and hot-blooded sport. There was teamwork, individual brilliance, and all kinds of wonderful things were in the battle ball. In that game, the garrison army, who was initially not favored, actually narrowly defeated the Imperial Guards with 1 goal. They were rewarded with 50 sets of upper-grade armor. Since then, the arena held a game every week. Both sides had their wins and losses, and almost every game was full. The battle ball also became popular throughout the Dark Moon. Princess Royal Jia deliberately used several abandoned areas at the corner of the city to build a simple stadium with basic magic circles for the residents to use for free. In addition to the 11-player large-scale battle, the battle ball could also be used for small 3-player and 5-player games. It became the most popular sport in the Dark Moon for a while. There were even fights for the venue. For this reason, Jia had to send the garrison army to maintain order and act as referees. For a while, the battle ball could be seen in the streets and alleys. The magic stores of the Princess Retail Store and the Cloak Gang also launched several deluxe and ordinary versions of the battle ball at the same time. There were competition versions and popular versions with favorable prices. They were quite popular. The battle ball was easy to learn, but it was not easy to master it. Especially the ball would absorb power, so it was extremely exhausting to play. It also imperceptibly trained the combat power and physique of the Dark Moon residents. The Dark Elf striker of the garrison army received a header from his teammate. He tapped his feet and rose into the air. He turned around in the air, twisted his waist, and swung his leg. A beautiful barb made the ball fly straight to the top right corner of the goal. The great demon goalkeeper of the Imperial Guards reacted half a beat slower, but he activated his talent skill in time. He teleported in front of the ball and hit it far away in time. When the ball drew an arc and flew far away from the goal, there was a lot of pity in the stands. Especially the audience who bet on the Imperial Guards to win. They clenched the betting ticket in their hands. They wished they could pinch this ball into the goal. At this moment, a centaur of the garrison army in the front field held his great demon teammate's foot with both hands and threw him with all his strength. The great demon jumped high with the strength of his companion. This jump was about 3 meters high. If it weren't for the gravity magic circle in the field, he would jump even higher. The great demon whipped his leg in the air and fiercely hit the battle ball that bounced high. The bounced battle ball turned into a straight line and whizzed toward the goal like a meteor. The opponent's goalkeeper had just used his teleportation skill, so he couldn't recover in a short time. He tried his best to save the ball, but he was still one step late. The goal was penetrated by this powerful rebound shot. When the battle ball crossed the goal line, it burned like a flame, emitting a dazzling light, indicating that the garrison army finally led by 5-4. This goal made the audience boil. Cheers, regrets, cheers, and even curses were intertwined. The entire arena was filled with a fanatical atmosphere. On the VIP seat, Joseph, who had a panoramic view of all this, frowned. This battle ball is really a troublesome thing. It can actually cause such a craze. Judging from the performance of the garrison army now, under Athena's training, their combat power has been greatly enhanced. During the time when he was fighting with Kanita in Town Mordo, the Dark Moon seemed to have changed quite a lot. Not only their combat power, but their economic strength was also growing rapidly. This was not good for the Red Spirit estate that shouldered the task of weakening and controlling the Dark Moon. Not only that, due to the intervention of the Custer family of the Shadow Empire, the food sanctions of the fallen angel capital, which were enough to choke the Dark Moon, had little impact on the Dark Moon. The Custer family was the top business family of the Shadow Empire. This move was likely to be instructed by the Dark Shadow Empire's Catherine. On the surface, Regent Obsidian, who was obviously inferior, really had no good solution. However, with the barren land of the Dark Moon for generations, it was impossible to really get rid of the dependence on food. Moreover, with Jiao's wisdom, she should know that the Shadow Empire's trade or assistance to the Dark Moon also has a far-reaching purpose. These should be expedient measures. While thinking, a subtle voice suddenly came to his ears. "My friend, you seem to be troubled by something?" This long-lost familiar voice made Joseph slightly shocked. A look of surprise flashed in his eyes. He looked back around, but he did not find a figure in a cloak. Joseph thought for a moment, and he did not continue to watch the game. He stood up and left the field. Out of the bustling arena, Joseph turned left and right all the way and came to a remote alley with no one. He did not feel that someone was following behind him, but under the purple moonlight, he could clearly see an elongated figure appearing behind him. Illusion. Or, Joseph turned around abruptly without warning, and he saw a black figure in a cloak behind him. Joseph bounced his feet and leaped into the air. His fist lit up with a fiery red flame, and he rushed toward the black figure like lightning. The black shadow didn't dodge or give way. He stretched out a finger to meet Joseph's fist. Joseph's eyes flashed with a strange light, and he suddenly changed into his battle form. His whole body was bathed in flames, and the power of this punch suddenly doubled. The black shadow did not react to Joseph's change, and still used a finger to meet it. In the blink of an eye, the fist and the finger collided, and a figure suddenly flew out. He staggered a few steps before stabilizing himself. It was Joseph. Joseph's face was full of disbelief and horror. "I transformed into my combat form and gave a full punch, but I was actually repelled by the power of the opponent's finger." Joseph's punch was not meant to kill the guy in the cloak. It was faintly meant to test and establish his power. Unexpectedly, he was shocked by the opponent instead. "Who the hell are you?" Joseph showed vigilance. "The strength of this person is far beyond my imagination. In this secluded place, if there is any malicious intent, I'm afraid I will be in great danger." "My friend, have you forgotten me?" The familiar voice came from the cloak. This is really a sad thing. Agwile! Joseph was shocked. It really is him. However, last time, this Beelzebub royal family was only Demon King level strength, which was similar to me, but now, peak of Demon King level. You really improved a small realm. The cloaked person praised. It seems that the effect of that devil fruit is not bad, but its benefits are more important in the breakthrough of the realm. I believe you can go further in the future. This compliment sounded more like sarcasm to Joseph, but the other party quickly explained. Compared to my ready-made power, your progress is already quite fast. Joseph quickly recovered his calmness and showed a habitual smile. It seems that Sir's awakened power has reached the great Demon King level. This is really something worth congratulating. The higher the level, the more difficult it is to awaken. I'm now stuck on the Demon Emperor level seal. Shinrei sighed and casually changed the topic. You are a busy person in town Mordo during this time. You haven't returned to the Dark Moon for a long time, right? What do you think of the changes in the Dark Moon? I use some small tricks. Even if someone passes by, they can't hear our conversation. Joseph could hear that the level of Agwile had reached the peak of Great Demon King. He was breaking through the Demon Emperor level seal. Once he reached the Demon Emperor level, it was equivalent to stepping into the ranks of the Rio powerhouses. His father, Josh, was only a Demon Emperor now. It seemed that he found a great ally at the beginning. He was definitely a person that could be used well. However, Joseph had self-awareness. His current strength was already a big round lower than the other party. Once the other party reached the Demon Emperor, it was uncertain whether he would recognize a weak ally like him. Therefore, he must maintain his value to the other party when the other party had great value to use in order to obtain more benefits. Whether it is combat power or economic strength, the Dark Moon's improvement is quite rapid. Fortunately, the historical problem of barren land has never been solved. Otherwise, even my father's Red Spirit estate can't be controlled. Joseph looked puzzled. As far as I know, the most popular night market in the Dark Moon now comes from the Cloak Gang. My friend, may I ask, what is your plan? I don't want some of our plans to conflict. I once said that the first step of the plan is to get the Dark Moon. Of course, I don't want my foundation to be a barren and broken place. The stronger and more prosperous it is, the more beneficial it is for me. Shinrei's voice was full of confidence. Although the ownership of the Princess Retail Store and the night market is still under the control of Princess Royal, as long as the time is right, I have full confidence to accept all the resources in Jia's hands. Perhaps, this includes the arrogant Princess Royal herself. However, my identity to the outside world is the leader of the Cloak Gang, so it's not easy to expose it for the time being. I need a spokesperson who can do all this on the surface. My friend, I think you are the most suitable candidate. Spokesperson? Joseph's eyes lit up, but the other party's next words made his heart beat wildly. But before that, there is a very important piece of information that I must tell you. As my ally and possibly the future master of the Red Spirit Estate, there is now the biggest difficulty in front of you. If you don't solve this problem, I'm afraid you will completely lose the power to compete with Kaneda. Was Kaneda particularly arrogant some time ago? Yet you repeatedly adopted the strategy of retreat. You even endured the granary burning. The purpose of doing this is to use your economic strength to drag down the opponent step by step. Shinrei looked at the uncertain changes on Joseph's face and said confidently, Don't question my intelligence ability. As a bystander, I am more aware than both of you who are in the game. To put it bluntly, your biggest crisis is coming, my friend. Joseph was secretly shocked and asked, I admit that I used a delaying tactic, but isn't your biggest crisis a bit exaggerated? Not at all. Shinrei's voice became solemn. The cause of this incident is a human who came to the demon realm. This human has brought an important opportunity to Kaneda, which can allow him to obtain a steady stream of wealth. According to my intelligence analysis, Kaneda's income may exceed 1 million black crystal coins in the first month alone. This is just the beginning, and this number will increase exponentially later. If this situation continues, you should know better than me what the consequences are. 1 million a month! It will double later! Joseph was much more sensitive to this aspect, and his complexion changed suddenly. In fact, Joseph also had doubts about Kanita's recent movements, and he also had a lot of clues. The intel of Aguile should not be false, and it also confirmed some vague speculations in his heart, which made him shudder. The other party was right. If it continued to develop like this, his biggest financial advantage would become worthless in front of Kanita. Then, it was almost equivalent to losing the ability to compete with Kanita for the position of Lord. Joseph forced himself to calm down and asked, "What is the origin of this human? Why would he help Kanita? I'm not very clear." It should not be a simple help, but a kind of transaction between both parties for profit. The worst thing is that when I confirmed this intel, Kanita had already taken this human to the Red Spirit City, and he seemed to be supported by your father. I have no doubt that your father has also become a beneficiary of this deal. Right now, you're in a very dangerous situation. These news were like a series of heavy punches that almost stunned Joseph. With his wisdom, he would never realize the crisis only when he was desperate. In fact, it was already a very critical juncture. Kanita had unexpectedly obtained a huge source of income, and he even shared it with his father, Josh. Whether it was the benefits or this credit, it had almost pushed him to the edge of the cliff. That human seems to have the ability to shuttle between the demon realm and the human world. I have secretly contacted him, but unfortunately, with my current identity and status, I can't get the other party's trust, and I can't get more relevant information. Moreover, that human's strength makes me not dare to act rashly. He should have reached the level of Demon Emperor. Demon Emperor. This also made some of Joseph's last assassination thoughts fall through, and there was a burst of despair in his heart. I think there is only one way to get you out of this predicament now. What is it? Please tell me. The words of his ally gave Joseph a glimmer of hope again. If the capital knows that the Red Spirit Lord colluded with the spy of the human world, it shouldn't be a crime that can be ignored. The laughter behind the cloak seemed evil. Even if this crime can be explained clearly, the benefits will definitely not be enjoyed by Josh and Kanita alone. If a bottle of wine is divided by 2 people, each person can get 2 glasses. If it is divided by 20 people, then each person can't even get a small glass. What's more, Regent Obsidian will definitely drink the most glass, and you might be able to get a small glass. Even if you can't get a share, it is also a great credit. If you can get the attention and support of Prince Obsidian, with your identity as the eldest son of the Red Spirit Lord, in the future, no matter what, it is also quite beneficial for my plan if you can control the Red Spirit. Joseph's eyes became brighter and brighter, and he finally made a decision in his heart. Chapter 326. In midair. A graceful figure stood on the back of a flying wyvern. She closed her eyes and opened her arms. She seemed to enjoy the feeling of being blown by the wind in the sky. Although he knew that Kia was a Demon King-level magician who was proficient in wind and fire, even if she lost her footing and fell, she could rely on the fly spell, or feather fall, to be safe and sound. Chen Rei still carefully held her waist. He didn't know if there were any other thoughts in this care. In fact, the most important purpose of Chen Rei's return to the Dark Moon this time was to use Joseph to complete an important part of the plan. He also wanted to have a good time with Athena, who was newly married. However, Athena's words, "I'm not feeling well these few days," poured a bucket of cold water on someone's head, and the temperature suddenly dropped by half. Then, when he said that he was going to Mountain Shilong, Athena inadvertently suggested to bring Kia along. Chen Rei faintly understood that Athena was taking this opportunity to matchmake him and Kia. Looking at her pretending to be generous but unable to hide her jealousy, he couldn't help but hold her in his arms and comfort her for a while. Is a woman who isn't jealous still a woman? No matter how generous a woman is, she is still a woman. Being jealous means that she cares. In any case, don't waste Athena's kindness. In this way, Kia took a few days off on the grounds of physical discomfort. Alice was still very considerate to the people below, so she agreed without hesitation. The most important thing was that the little loli didn't know that Chunrui was back. Otherwise, there would definitely be one more big third wheel on this trip. Master, your hand isn't honest? The little tail behind Kia's maid costume suddenly slapped Chunrui's hand lightly. It turned out that the hand that was holding her waist had unconsciously moved down a distance. I was distracted. Chunrui grinned. He was a little distracted, but this part was more convenient for him. Both of their powers were extraordinary. Although they were flying at a high altitude, their words were still very clear. They were not affected by the wind at all. Can you stand up? Kia stretched out her arms. The little princess told me last time that you played a very intimate game of Titanic with her when you were flying with her. I also want to be the shredded meat for once. At the mention of the Titanic and the shredded meat, Chunrui was speechless. It seemed that the little loli also deliberately showed off in front of Kia. From the word, intimate, it was likely that she exaggerated the facts. However, Chunrui certainly wouldn't refuse Kia's request. He stood up and held her shoulder while maintaining a distance. He smiled and said, "This is how Alice played that day, then this is today with my Kia." As he spoke, he leaned in and hugged the succubus's waist. This is true intimacy. You don't have to explain it so deliberately. Kia giggled and said, "There's a saying that an explanation is a cover-up. Actually, I can see that the little princess likes you quite a lot. She is still young and doesn't know anything. She only knows how to mess around." Chunrui's face suddenly became bitter. The little princess is not young anymore. According to her age, she is actually old enough to get married. Kia leaned gently against him. The little princess is a very good person. She has been very good to me all these years. Okay, let's not talk about this. Thief? Can you not say the word thief? Chunrui almost wanted to roll his eyes, but he still cooperated and hugged Kia's waist tightly. The wind in the sky was biting cold, and the two could feel each other's warmth and even heartbeat. Kia turned her head. Chunrui naturally wouldn't avoid her like the little loli this time. Instead, he leaned forward and accepted the succubus's tempting red lips. This posture was just a shallow taste, but it made Kia's body start to heat up. The flying posture only lasted for a moment, and the succubus sat softly in Chunrui's arms. In order to prevent the little maid from falling, the unscrupulous master responsibly protected her chest with his hand. The maid's face suddenly turned red, but she didn't resist. She just giggled. At this height, and on the back of the wyvern, it was obviously not suitable for anything to happen. However, taking advantage of the opportunity to take advantage of her was definitely indispensable. It's getting late. Let's rest in the green leaves forest in front tonight. Chunrui slowed down the wyvern and landed in front of a small house. Kia showed a strange expression. Someone lives in this remote forest? Why did you land in front of this house? Chunrui looked at the simple wooden house, and his heart was filled with warmth. This is the small house that Athena and I built when I first came to Mountain Shillong. At that time, she didn't know my power. She just thought of me as an ordinary human with no power. Kia looked at the gentleness on his face, and a trace of envy flashed through her eyes. She bit her lip gently. You really love Athena. I can't help but be a little jealous. You don't know what she and I have experienced here in Mountain Shillong. Chunrui shook his head. By the way, we have flown for so long today. You should be hungry. Eat something first. And Chunrui didn't enter the small house that belonged to him and Athena. Instead, he took out a tent. When Chunrui and Christina were in the silent night wetland, he was impressed by her magic tent. Later, after Chunrui became a trio-specialized master, he referred to the precious notes obtained by the Mechanic Association and mastered the method of making this small space equipment. Subsequently, in the Crystal Valley, he used those free, rare resources and spent a lot of effort to customize a tent for himself. This tent had more functions, and the space inside was larger. It had tables, chairs, and beds. It could be used to observe the external environment. It also had effects such as silence, self-camouflage, and warning magic circle. It could be said to be the best prop for sleeping outside. Kia walked into the tent curiously and looked at the situation inside. She was amazed. Chenrei magically placed her favorite food and juice on the table. They were actually very fresh. This was naturally due to the magical effect of the storage warehouse. After enjoying a romantic candlelight dinner, Chenrei hugged Kia and lay on the carpet. He turned on the tent's observation function. They could see the sky directly from inside, and the tops seemed transparent. It's beautiful. Kia lay comfortably in his arms and looked up at the twin moons and stars. This is the most beautiful night view I have seen since I was born. Don't speak too early. Chenrei stroked the succubus hair lovingly. There will be more beautiful ones in the future. I know because my ordeal is over. Kia's eyes flashed with tears. I believe my mother will be very happy to know. Yes, do you see the stars in the sky? She has become one of them, watching over and protecting you forever. Kia looked at the stars in the night sky in a daze. She seemed to be looking for the one belonging to her mother, Freya. We humans have a lot of legends about the stars. That one is a bit like the immortal constellation. The story is like this: a brave man named Perseus. Chenrei, the human, actually referred to the earth. He had no memory of the legends related to the world on the surface of this plane. The so-called constellation was also mechanically copied or even arbitrarily adapted, but Kia listened with relish. Unconsciously, the sadness just now had quietly faded. Perseus dares to fight with the gods for the woman he loves. Kia's tone seemed very surprised. In this world, the gods were real. Even the strongest peak stage of the demon overlord had to crawl and tremble under the will of the gods. However, because there had been no miracles for a long time, they gradually became legends, but no one doubted their existence at all because it was not surprising for the gods to sleep for tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years in the eternal life of the gods. If it were me, I would do this without hesitation. Do you believe it? I believe it. Kia looked into his eyes. The facts are the best proof, and you don't need to prove anything anymore. I know, you will face many dangers next. I may not be able to help you, but I hope you can live well for Athena and for me. Promise me that you will always accompany me to see a more beautiful night view in the future. Always, okay? I promise you. Kia's eyes wandered, and she showed a charming smile. I know that Master is a very clever liar. A small scheme almost deceived everyone, but you must not lie to Kia about this. Otherwise, even if I go to another world, I will find Master to settle the score. Definitely. Chenrei clearly felt the affection in Kia's words. Compared with the symbiotic contract that Athena directly proposed to live and die together last time, this expression was more implicit and euphemistic, but the strong feelings were the same. The story just now is really nice. Kia turned sideways and changed to a more comfortable position. However, I still want to hear the story of you and Athena. Just the last one tonight, okay? That kind of coquettish tone had a strange temptation, which made Chenrei's heart feel hot. A certain part of his body suddenly raised to show his appreciation. He almost couldn't control himself and patted the succubus' high buttocks. You actually used the charm talent. Master, I was wrong. Although Kia was begging for mercy, her seductive body was wriggling gently in his arms like a seductive, beautiful snake. She didn't have the slightest awareness of admitting her mistake. Master, after I finish this last story, you can punish me however you want, okay? She's still using her talent. What a seductress! Chenrei had to use the calmness he cultivated when he was training refined mind. He took a deep breath and suppressed the idea of punishing this seductress on the spot. Then, he told her everything that happened between him and Athena in Mountain Shillong last time. In the beginning, Chenrei still had to be distracted by Kia's temptation, but later, he got into character. Kia listened attentively, and her charm talent had already been put away. When she heard the thrilling part, Although she knew that everything would be fine later, she still couldn't help but hold Chinray's hand tightly. I really can't compare to Athena. After listening to Chinray's narration, Kia said with deep emotion, I now understand why she is unique in your heart. You are also unique in my heart, Kia. Chinray sighed. You are all excellent and charming women, just like treasures, but I'm greedy. I'm not satisfied with having one. I'm sorry for wronging you. Master. Kia looked into Chinray's eyes. You're really a fool, but a truly reassuring and charming fool. Don't call me master. You are your own true master. I won't force you to do anything. Chinray stroked the delicate curved horns on her head. This pair of curved horns and the small wings and tail on her back added a different kind of charm to the succubus. You don't understand. Only by your side can my heart be truly peaceful and free. Otherwise, it will be like before. No matter how far I am away, my soul is still imprisoned by the shackles. I don't want to compete with anyone for favor or for any title. I just want to be a little maid, accompany you forever, and enjoy this peace and freedom. A faint mist rose in Kia's eyes. No matter how many wives you have, there will always be only one maid, Kia, okay? You don't have to do this. I said that you are also unique. Chinray looked at Kia's persistent look and sighed softly. Since you're free, then do as you wish. Anyway, in my heart, you and Athena are both my wives. When Kia heard the word, wife, she felt an unprecedented satisfaction in her heart. She chuckled. Just me and Athena? Master doesn't seem to be honest enough. I heard from Athena that you seem to have a lover in the Shadow Empire. Chinray was secretly sweating. Athena even told this to Kia. Is it a united front in advance? It seems that any woman will become a little shrewd when they encounter this kind of thing. This is another story. Kia's eyes became charming. Chinray felt the beauty in his arms began to squirm again. I'm not a greedy person. Story time for tonight is over. Next. I seem to have to accept Master's punishment. As soon as she said this, a certain male part that had just calmed down was instantly filled with strength. Chinray was sure that the succubus did not use her charm talent, but men were indeed creatures that couldn't withstand temptation. While he was thinking, the beautiful snake in his arms had gradually swam to the rapidly expanding part. She gently untied the restraint, and the object exposed to the air seemed even higher. Two snow-white lethal weapons tightly clamped the object, and the end was wrapped in a warm feeling. This wonderful feeling was simply indescribable. Chinray almost had a disappointing feeling of moaning out. After a long time, Kia's woo-woo sound turned into a panting and charming voice. Master, do I do better than Athena? At this time, she still doesn't forget to compare. Chinray was a little speechless, but it was undeniable that although Kia only accumulated relevant experience on him a few times, the special talent inheritance of the succubus made the little maid's skills improve rapidly. Not to mention, this kind of service Athena seemed to have never tried it. Of course, Chinray would not belittle Athena in front of Kia, and he didn't want to explore this kind of question at this critical moment. He replied vaguely. Athena also did very well. You all did very well. Praising another woman in front of a woman? Master is really stupid. Kia's breathing was rapid, and her face was flushed. She was obviously in a state of extreme arousal. After confirming that the ring on Chinray's finger had been put on, she added a sentence with a flirtatious look. Speaking of which, Kia is not a real woman yet. Can Master help Kia? At this moment, as a man, what else could he say except for the words, Beast blood is boiling. Chapter 327. The next day, when the faint cold glow of the two moons became the warmest, Chinray just opened his eyes. Looking at the beauty who was still sleeping soundly in his arms, the scene of last night's indulgence appeared in his mind again. As the only all-female race in the demon realm, the succubus talent and physique were incomparable even to the royal women in terms of the matter between men and women. However, Chinray, who had obtained the power of dragons, was obviously more powerful in certain aspects. The succubus maid also experienced the battle for the first time, so she was conquered several times in a row. Finally, she couldn't resist and collapsed in his arms. Nevertheless, Kia's first time still left a deep impression on Chenrui. The kind of sparing no effort to serve and please made Chenrui particularly pitiful in his heart. His movements were more gentle and careful. He didn't selfishly only care about his own pleasure. This kind of thing was originally the sublimation of emotions. It was truly perfect when both the mind and body of both men and women could reach the peak. Chenrui gently put Kia's body down and covered her with a blanket. As he was about to get up to prepare food, Kia had woken up. "Master, where are you going?" The succubus opened her mesmerizing eyes. Her languid appearance was surprisingly seductive. Chenrui smiled and said, "Master is going to help the mistress prepare breakfast. I remember that there seems to be a kind of fruit in the green leaf forest that tastes very good. I will pick some for you to try later." The succubus stretched out cutely, and the snow-white skin under the blanket was suddenly exposed. Seeing the jade-like arms and half of the round and plump chest, Chenrui's heart was hot. He couldn't move his eyes away. "I'm not the mistress. I'm just the master's maid. I should prepare breakfast." The succubus noticed the human's gaze. Her eyes wandered, and her voice became more charming. "It's just that I was punished too badly by the master yesterday. Now I have no strength at all. Master might as well eat me for breakfast." Little succubus. Chenrui had a feeling of dryness in his mouth. A certain part that was hard because of the physiological phenomenon in the morning became even more disobedient. "Stop messing around. It was your first time last night, and you were tormented quite a bit. Take a good rest and eat something later to let your body recover." Chenrui suppressed the lust in his heart, gently pinched the succubus' nose, put on his clothes and stood up. "Do you want to eat something?" The succubus had a strange look on her face as she gently licked her red lips. "So, Master doesn't want to eat Kia because you want Kia to eat? Master? Master is so bad." Even though Chenrui had the mental fortitude of the refined heart, he almost couldn't resist this kind of charm. He immediately used the excuse of going out to pick some fruits and quickly walked out of the tent. Kia looked at the humans fleeing in panic, and a mischievous smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Her eyes were filled with affection, and a warm feeling filled her heart. Was this the taste of happiness? After that, he ate his breakfast normally, but after that, "Master, I feel a little pain there. Can you help me apply some medicine? He needs treatment inside as well. There seems to be a place that hasn't been eaten by Master yet. Doesn't Master want all of Kia? I have to take one more than Athena." During dinner, the man who couldn't resist the temptation finally couldn't bear it anymore. He pushed the little succubus who had seduced him for the whole day to the ground. "Succubus! The oceanic iron is here, show your true form now. I'm Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots. No matter how tight you choke me, I won't reveal the secret of the Autobots. No way, if this continues, even if I have the physique of dragons, I will be squeezed dry sooner or later." With the speed of this Demon King level wyvern, it took less than 2 hours to travel from the Greenleaf Forest to the mine. However, it took Chenrui 4 days to reach the mining office of Mountain Shilong. In Kia's heart, these 4 days were the happiest days of her life. In the previous years, she had been shrouded in the shadow of her mother's encounter, and soul shackles, like a walking corpse. Until she met him. This man who only had the strength of a great demon king didn't hesitate to take the risk to face the terrifying demon overlord, kill the demon emperor, and release her and her mother's shackles. Although he couldn't save her mother's life, she believed that her mother would also feel the precious freedom and relaxation at the moment the shackles were released. It wasn't just gratitude and repayment, but there was also true affection and love. In front of this man, she felt unrestrained and could do whatever she wanted. She could live freely and love him freely. Chenrui could clearly feel Kia's thoughts. It wasn't just those willing services, some were even quite large, but more of the spiritual support and integration. He felt that he had more responsibilities and more motivation to move forward. In Mountain Shillong, Tim, who was the mining officer and the captain of the West Road Defense Force, had extraordinary abilities. The West Road Defense Force under his command was already quite large. Since it was originally the family's personal guard team, its combat power was quite outstanding. As a competitive event to improve combat power and competitiveness, the Battle Ball had been promoted to the defense force of Mountain Shillong. A spacious stadium was also built in the mountain area. Chen Rei's visit this time, in addition to giving Tim one or two pieces of equipment that surprised him, he also issued a strange order about the Battle Ball and made special adjustments and improvements to the magic circle of the defense team's Battle Ball field. Since it would take some time to set up the magic circle, Kia wanted to see what the underground world looked like. Accompanied by Tim, she first entered the underground of Mountain Shillong's main mine. The acting chief of the Medusa tribe, Lisa, was Tim's wife. She even gave birth to a child with great demon lineage. Lisa knew that Tim was the heir of a demon's family, so he was likely to have many wives. However, in her selfish heart, it was best for Tim's wives to be from the Medusa tribe so that her position could be more stable. Therefore, during this time, Lisa, as the Medusa princess, pulled the strings for Tim a lot. There were also a few Medusa snake women among Tim's concubines. In a sense, Tim was pitiful. Now, when she saw her husband bringing a beautiful and moving woman, a female's unique vigilance flashed through her snake eyes. However, the misunderstanding was quickly clarified. When Lisa knew that this beautiful succubus was actually the wife of the master of the Medusa tribe, her attitude immediately changed. She led all the Medusas to express the highest respect to this mistress. This made Kia feel a little helpless. After Chunrei, who had completed the magic circle, returned to the Medusa tribe, the Taurans who got the news also rushed over. Kia originally only heard about Chunrei's experience in the underground world from his story. Now, when she saw so many higher demonic beasts with super combat power, she was extremely surprised. There were nearly 50 Demon King level Medusas and Taurans alone, not to mention those with higher demon strength. This was the result of the two tribes being greatly damaged in the underground war. Coupled with Tim's defense army, Athena's defense army, Paglio, Lomond, Delia, Earth Elementals, Wyverns, and Undead, it would only take a blink of an eye to subvert the entire Dark Moon estate. However, Kia had an intuition that Chunrei would not do this. There was no reason to explain. Anyway, she just felt that he would not. To Chunrei's surprise, under the effect of the devil fruit, Chief Tauren, Delong, finally broke through the bottleneck of power and reached the Demon Emperor level. In the memory of Delong's bloodline inheritance, there were only 2 Taurans in history who reached the Demon Emperor strength. Fortunately, he became the 3rd one who could be recorded in the Tauran's history. Including Paglio, Chunrei already had 3 Demon Emperors in his hands. Chief Tauren, who had become a Demon Emperor, attributed everything to the human who had sworn allegiance to him. Without the devil fruit, he might be able to break through the bottleneck. However, without the human, the underground Tauren tribe would have been destroyed by Glorfin long ago, not to mention the great grace of the human finding the Eye of Sauron to lift the curse of the entire tribe. To the Tauren's surprise, the human once again brought a huge surprise. The Tauren's forging technology was the best in the demon realm, but due to their limited talent, enchantment had always been their biggest flaw. This also made it almost impossible for Taurans to create truly powerful magic equipment. This time, the human brought a special enchantment item which effectively made up for this regrettable flaw. According to the human, many master-level mechanics did not have outstanding magic talent, but they could use a certain tool to enlighten enchantment to make the equipment reach perfect excellent grade, or even legendary grade. This kind of enlightenment required one's own magic power as a primer. Although the Tauren's magic power was a shortcoming, Chunrei specially designed a magic item tailored for the Taurans. It could guide the Taurans who had a certain magic element sensing ability to master this wonderful method. Under Chunrei's demonstration guidance and explanation, the Tauren priest, Hart, and several of his kind with certain magic abilities quickly mastered the essentials of this enchantment, which also proved the feasibility of this path. However, to apply it freely, a considerable degree of control and familiarity with the material itself was needed. This key technical breakthrough made all Taurans ecstatic. The whole tribe was jubilant. Chenrei, who had successfully experimented, was also very excited. The iron ore under Mountain Shillong was of superior quality, and there were many rare mineral deposits. The Taurans who were good at forging mastered this enchantment technology, which was equivalent to having a large number of master-level excellent blacksmiths. It was also equivalent to having countless high-quality magic weapons and armors. Strategy was only an important means to destroy the enemy. The real power to end was still inseparable from force. At present, at least the Dark Moon had to have the ability to defend against being ended, especially at the critical moment when the plan was about to go further. When leaving Mountain Shillong, Chenrei deliberately went to look at the silver box soaked in the Tauran tribe's fountain of life. DeLong had been faithfully executing his orders. There were Taurans guarding the fountain of life at all times, prohibiting anyone, including the tribe members, from approaching this silver box. For Taurans who had lifted the curse, the only baptism function of the fountain of life had long been replaced by the newly built Tauran temple. Chenrei finally suppressed his curiosity about this mysterious silver box and didn't take it out to study because Paglio's advice was by no means a joke. He only opened it for a short while last time, but it had already turned his inner demon into the haunting Shura. Besides, it also had that kind of terrifying destructive power. If he touched this box again this time, God knows what would happen. Especially, he had more important things to do at the moment. On the way back, the succubus maid naturally seized the time to be affectionate with Chenrei. It could be described as messing around with all kinds of tricks. When returning to the sheriff's house, the cunning maid returned to her docile appearance instead of her seductive appearance in Mountain Shillong. There was also gratitude to Athena, but the glamorous charm that the succubus exuded after being fully nourished by the man couldn't be restrained. Athena saw it. Although she deliberately proposed this trip to fulfill Kia's wish, she still felt a little sour in her heart. Athena wasn't the type who could hide her thoughts, especially in front of Chenrei. Chenrei also felt a little sorry for her, so he used various methods to make her happy. Athena wasn't stupid. She understood the man's intentions. In addition, Kia was also quite good at behaving. The gratitude and respect that happened to be everywhere made Athena feel a lot better. Someone had to sacrifice his masculinity. Both mentally and physically, he completely calmed the little emotions in the heroine's heart. Athena, who was in a better mood, felt that she shouldn't be too jealous. Instead, she comforted Kia. She didn't know what method Kia used, but Athena and she vaguely formed an alliance to deal with someone together. The intimacy time with Chenrei was also tacitly divided into odd and even days. During the days when a man was squeezed dry of sexual bliss almost every day, some changes had also taken place in the Dark Moon. Princess Royal Jia, who was originally short of money because of the food sanctions, actually planned to carry out a series of renovations in the Dark Moon at this time, such as road renovation, shop building, etc. Although the Dark Moon's night market was popular, and the emerging ball market was also very popular, the original shops had a lot of idle space because the overall economy was still not very good. If new shops were built, they would be easily abandoned after a long time. It would be a waste of precious money. For this reason, Old Ford and several family patriarchs had advised Princess Royal several times. Jia's reason was that the Dark Moon had temporarily solved the food problem, the business was rapid, and the battle ball made the morale of the people high. For a long-term plan, she planned to use this momentum to replan the entire city. However, after hearing so many objections, Jia herself began to hesitate a little. At this time, Joseph, the financial officer who returned to the Dark Moon, uncharacteristically expressed his willingness to strongly support it. He offered to bear half of the expenses, but he wanted a certain share after the shops were built. This half of the expenses was not a small amount. Although Jia, Old Ford, and others doubted Joseph's purpose, they naturally wouldn't refuse this kind of good thing. Jia finally made up her mind. She stood her ground and began the transformation and upgrade steps of the Dark Moon. Joseph's move was already expected by Chenrui. This was originally one of his suggestions to his allies. During this time, not only this action, he believed that Joseph's other more important action had also begun to take effect. The days in the gentle village passed very quickly. Although the lingering of his beloved woman was lingering, Chenrui still resolutely said goodbye because he had more important things to complete. The beautiful life had just begun. The struggle now was for more peace and happiness in the future. Chapter 328. In town Moling, Chenrui saw Kanita with a solemn face. "Kanita, my friend, we meet again." Now Chenrui and Kanita were quite familiar with each other, so the address was more casual. However, Kanita did not know that the term, Charles, as a friend was also commonly used for his sworn enemy brother. "In addition to the first 5 million, I brought you the third rebate of the first investment, which is a total of 9 million black crystal coins. By the way, you don't look very good. Why aren't you happy? Sir Charles is really a trustworthy friend." Kanita's eyes lit up when he heard the number of 9 million black crystal coins. After accepting the huge sum of money, his expression returned to solemnity. "There is a very bad thing. The cooperation between us was reported to the capital. Now the capital has sent an envoy to investigate this matter. He has arrived at the Red Spirit City 4 days ago." "An envoy came from the capital? Who snitched on him? The cooperation between us should be very secretive. Did the people around you leak the news?" "Even among the people around me, only a few know about this. Besides, it can't be them." Kanita gritted his teeth. "Although there is no evidence, I have identified the biggest suspect. It must be that guy." Chenrui frowned, but he gave Joseph a thumbs up in his heart. Not bad, he acted faster than expected. This scene finally reached the most critical part. "I don't care what grudges you have with anyone, but I'm disappointed in this. In my plan, you and your father are long-term partners. Now it is just the beginning, and I already encountered this kind of thing. It seems that I need to consider changing partners." Kanita quickly explained. "Sir Charles, please don't misunderstand. In any case, as long as Sir is willing, our cooperation will definitely be closer. It will never change because of this matter. Now, please follow me to the Red Spirit City to meet the Sir Envoy." "Meet the Envoy?" Chenrui showed obvious vigilance. "My father asked me to tell Sir that you can just tell the truth to the Envoy. In fact, this matter is beneficial to Sir's plan, but most of the interests of our Red Spirit estate may shift to the capital. By then, I hope Sir can sign an additional cooperation plan with the Red Spirit estate." Chenrui pondered for a while and then asked, "I need you to provide me with information about this special envoy of the capital, especially his strength level. You know, it's better to be safe than sorry." Kanita nodded in understanding. "This envoy is the Empire's financial advisor, Mrs. Isabella, who is known as the Devil's Snare Flower. This lady was resourceful and skillful. She was deeply trusted by His Royal Highness the Prince Regent. It was said that she controlled the real financial power, and even the finance minister had to listen to her commands. As for strength, it shouldn't surpass my father. The capital's envoy is actually Isabella." Chenrui was a little surprised. He had personally experienced the viciousness of this woman. If it weren't for his strange power, he would have been harmed by this woman's voodoo. Not only that, Isabella's appearance was almost exactly the same as Sabrina, who was killed by him. It was likely that she was also related to that secret force. Lomond had set off for the capital a few months ago. His goal was exactly this Mrs. Isabella because this woman was likely to be his aunt. Most importantly, she knew the whereabouts of the Belphegor royal family's artifact, Bree's shadow boots. It was just that when he returned to the Dark Moon this time, he learned from Delia that Lomond had been out of contact for a long time, and she didn't know what happened. Chenrui knew Delia's worries, so he took this opportunity to investigate. Chenrui thought for a moment, and asked despite knowing the answer. A person's nickname can often reveal a lot of things. What is Devil's Snare flower? Devil's Snare is a unique poisonous flower of the demon realm. It looks delicate, but it contains terrifying toxins. After it is made into a certain potion, it can make people addicted and unable to extricate themselves. This lady's appearance is beautiful. Kanita recalled the scene of seeing Isabella 4 days ago, and he was slightly absent-minded. However, her previous husbands don't seem to live long. She is still a widow now. Since she is called Devil's Snare, then this woman must be a ruthless character. No wonder I didn't see Samuel. He should have been taken to the Red Spirit City as a hostage. Kanita didn't expect the other party's judgment to be so accurate, and he was speechless for a while. I have tried my best for Sir Samuel's matter, but I can guarantee his safety. You are not qualified to make this guarantee, but it's not your fault. Shinrei sneered. Let's go. Let me meet this demon realm's poisonous flower. Kanita didn't dare to neglect, and he hurriedly rushed to the Red Spirit City with Shinrei. Red Spirit City, City Lord's mansion. Shinrei saw the Devil's Snare flower again. She still had the same charming appearance with long brown curly hair, blue eyes and purple lips. Her whole body exuded a mature and beautiful charm. In terms of beauty and temperament, even Sabrina, who looked like her, was a bit inferior. However, Sabrina had died in Shinrei's hands. Even if Isabella was more beautiful, for Shinrei, there was only more vigilance. Sir Josh. Shinrei saluted slightly. I came this time to bring part of the benefits you should get as promised, but I want to meet my brother Samuel first. As a partner who has signed an equal contract, I am puzzled and regretful about Sir's behavior. This will directly affect the sincerity of our future cooperation. This must be Sir Charles. Before Josh could answer, Isabella on the side said, I think Sir has misunderstood about Samuel. This must be the Sir Anva that Kanita mentioned. Shinrei's eyes lit up, and a pure destructive breath exuded. The air began to be filled with this terrifying breath of violence and heat. Josh was secretly shocked. When I first fought with this human, the other party only defended and did not attack, but I can already faintly feel the pure destructive power. Now Charles' murderous aura is exposed. Judging from the terrifying degree of this breath, the true strength of the human is still above my expectation. Facing the terrifying destructive breath, Isabella's eyes flashed, but her expression remained unchanged. Instead, she showed a moving smile. I heard about the deeds of Sir Charles from Sir Josh. If Sir is really such an impulsive and irritable person, then the so-called cooperation plan should also be rediscussed. Oh? Shinrei gradually converged his momentum and re-evaluated Isabella for a while. You're indeed the Devil's Snare flower. You resolved my censure in one sentence. It seems that Sir has learned some information from Kanita, so Isabella will not introduce herself. Isabella said with a smile. To be precise, Sir Samuel's current situation is not only not dangerous, but also very good. Because under my hint, he has obtained some important revelations. He may be one step closer to Saint. Shinrei nodded calmly. If Sir Josh and Ms. Isabella will really use this kind of hostage strategy, then I have to reconsider the cooperation. In analytical eyes, Isabella's comprehensive strength had always been displayed as B+, which was Great Demon King. However, judging from her performance just now and her guidance to Samuel, her true strength should be Demon Emperor level, which was similar to Sabrina. It seemed that this woman was not easy to deal with, whether it was wisdom or strength. Sir really doesn't suffer at all. Isabella smiled charmingly. However, this widow likes your title of MS, very much. I don't know if it's fate, but I always feel like we've met somewhere? If it's not this special situation, I should say this sentence. Shinrei was secretly vigilant. The eye of evil of the Belphegor royal family was no trivial matter. Although even Lomont couldn't see through his true breath holding and camouflage, nothing was too strange in the world. Samuel once saw through true breath holding, so he said calmly, I'm very sorry. As a man, it's very rude to let a beautiful lady like Ms. Isabella take the initiative to say this. A strange expression flashed across Isabella's eyes, but she still smiled and said, Sir Charles is really a very interesting man. It seems that I won't be lonely on the way to the capital together this time. Together to the capital? Shenrui frowned and looked at Josh. This doesn't seem to be consistent with our plan. That's not my plan. Josh sighed and didn't say much. I have heard about Sir Charles's plan from Sir Lord. The capital's Royal Highness Regent is also quite interested in this. This is the real reason why I'm here. Isabella's tone changed. Cooperating with an empire is far better than an estate, but the premise is that Sir must let the Royal Highness Regent truly approve of this plan. If the Royal Highness Regent, who represents the highest authority of the empire, does not approve, then even if it's just cooperation with an estate of the empire, it will not be approved. Shenrui's eyes gradually became cold. Can I take Miss' words as a threat? Then I also say that the demon realm is not only this empire. I heard that the neighboring Shadow Empire to the west of the fallen Angel Empire is controlled by a powerful sage. I believe I will get better treatment there. Josh saw that the words of both sides were gradually stiffening, and he hurriedly said, Sir Charles, don't get me wrong. Sir Enveil is just talking about the Empire's system. There is no other meaning. In fact, the situation of the Shadow Empire is more complicated. Even if Sir can succeed, it will consume a lot of time, which is greatly detrimental to Sir's plan. I believe that with Royal Highness Obsidian's wisdom, he should make the most correct choice. With that said, Josh winked at Shenrui. Shenrui saw it and frowned. I need to seriously consider this matter, including some future directions. Isabella didn't want to push too hard, so she said, It's not that I'm threatening, sir, but according to the Regent's order, I must return to the capital tomorrow. I hope the journey back will not be lonely. Miss, please rest assured that a real gentleman will not make the same mistake. Shenrui's expression eased, and he replied politely, Of course, the premise is that we can give each other a chance to really get to know each other. Of course. Isabella showed a charming smile and turned away. Chapter 329. Shenrui looked at the graceful figure in the distance and sighed. This woman is not simple. Of course it's not simple, Josh said. In the past few days she has almost figured out the details of the Red Spirit estate. I originally wanted to cover up this matter, but she just gave a few detailed numbers, and I was speechless. In terms of strength, this woman is slightly inferior to me, but when it comes to scheming, I'm afraid few people in the entire empire can be on par with her, especially her ruthless and insidious means. The Devil's Snare flower is worthy of her reputation. I brought the first rebate this time. Our cooperation has already made a good start, but unfortunately, the plan can't keep up with the changes. Shenrui nodded with empathy. Sir Lord, you should understand that I don't have much choice in this matter. I understand. Actually, I don't either. Josh sighed. Sir Charles is resolute and honest. Although the contact and cooperation time is not long, he left a very good and deep impression on me. I will make a guarantee for Sir in front of the Regent. I hope Sir can properly consider your old friend of the Red Spirit estate in your future plan. Once Prince Obsidian really approved of this plan, he would definitely swallow the largest piece of benefits. Most of the endless wealth would flow into Obsidian's pocket by then, leaving only a few leftovers for the Red Spirit estate. As Isabella said, the cooperation conditions that an estate can provide are definitely not comparable to an empire. Don't worry, I will definitely consider it. Don't forget, we still have the corresponding equality contract. In addition to the rebate brought today, I can guarantee that the numbers promised in advance will appear in front of Sir. As for my brother, I will leave him to Sir Josh to take care of. He is currently only one step away from the saint level. I hope Sir can give him some appropriate inspiration. If Samuel can really break through to the saint level, then as a thank you, I will list additional projects to cooperate with Sir alone. Josh's eyes lit up, and he nodded. Shenrui secretly laughed in his heart. With this promise, he was not afraid that Josh would not worship Samuel like a bodhisattva. For Samuel himself, it would also be an important opportunity to reach the saint level. With a thought, Chenrei added, I don't know why, but I have a hunch that this trip to the imperial capital will not be easy. I wonder if Sir Lord has any good suggestions? Josh really didn't hide it. He introduced the situation of the capital. There were a large number of families with a long history in the capital. Their forces were deeply rooted. Even Regent Obsidian had to be scrupulous. Prince Obsidian had 2 trusted aides, one was Isabella, who was in charge of finances, and the other was Rommel, the current military minister. The military of the Demon Realm Empire was a traditional 3-general structure. The first general, George Wales, was currently stationed in the northeast Warlock Fortress. The second general, Doran Russ, commanded the Imperial Guards and the most elite Red Devil Legion. The third general, Gerent Brian, was stationed in the northwest Tekula Fortress. Chenrei had seen Doran's son, Sergei. He once coveted Athena. Chenrei plotted to kill Alan, the son of the capital's finance minister, Legu Karen, making General Doran and Legu enemies. Sergei was dismissed from the Red Devil Legion's official position, and he left the capital to follow Gerent to guard the border at Tekula Fortress. It was equivalent to a kind of exile. This was mainly to calm the anger of the Karen family. In addition, there were 2 palace guests with unfathomable strength. One was called Crobolus, and the other was a human like Charles, named Nero. Even Josh knew very little about these 2 people, but Josh emphasized one point: to get the approval and permission of Prince Obsidian for this plan, the most important thing is to pass through Isabella, who is in charge of the Empire's finances. Chenrei frowned. This woman's mind is even above Sabrina. Judging from her previous attitude, this matter is definitely not easy. Josh even vaguely said that although this capital's poisonous flower has a wide network, it is said that no man can really conquer her so far. If Charles can work on this, it may have a miraculous effect. Seduction? Chenrei shook his head with a wry smile. I don't have this ability yet. Besides, Isabella is likely to be with Asgalar. In terms of strength alone, she has Demon Emperor level power, and the God-eating mask is not suitable to use. It seems that I have to think of another way. The next day, Chenrei followed Isabella on the carriage to the capital. Along the way, Isabella didn't ask Chenrei about the plan or the Kribet family. She didn't even mention this aspect. She just asked about some irrelevant things such as the local customs of the human world. Chenrei knew that the more anxious he was at this time, the easier it was to expose himself. He calmed his mind and dealt with it carefully. The fragments of the human world in his memory seemed very vague, but before implementing the entire plan, Chenrei had specially spent a few days listening to Samuel in detail about the relevant things in the human world. It could be said that 80% of his knowledge of the human world now came from Samuel, and the remaining 20% was the original, Arthur. Isabella elegantly took a sip of the red fruit wine and asked, Has Sir Charles been to the Holy Mountain of the Light Divinity Temple? This carriage was a bit similar to Christina's last time. It was a space prop, but there was only one room in it. The facilities were quite complete, and he didn't feel bumpy at all. The Holy Mountain of the Light Divinity Temple is the place of the highest faith in the human world. Only the clergymen of the temple or permitted pilgrims and devout can enter. Chenrei showed a self-deprecating smile. I'm just a vulgar businessman. I'm not qualified to be blessed by the sacred. So, what if I want a snow dowlet flower of the Holy Mountain of Light? Snow dowlet? Sacred flower? Chenrei frowned. When Samuel introduced the Light Divinity Temple, he once mentioned that the snow dowlet flower of the Holy Mountain of Light had the magical power of light, and was known as the sacred flower. He didn't know where Isabella heard this name. The point was that Chenrei's return to the human world was purely a scam. If Isabella really wanted this flower, he definitely couldn't give it to her. He immediately frowned and said nothing. Isabella saw Chenrei's troubled look and smiled slightly. If you can't even do this request, then should I doubt the true strength of your family in the human world? If it's normal times, with the power of the Tribute family, this request is difficult, but it is not impossible. Chinrui had an idea in the emergency. It's just that the current situation is special, and we are cooperating with the demon realm. We must not attract the attention of the temple. I don't like to talk about things that can't be done, but I can promise Miss that when the conditions permit in the future, I will definitely bring the most beautiful sacred flower to Miss. In the future? Then it's not possible now? But I still feel quite comfortable in my heart. It seems that Sir does have a way to deal with women. I believe there should be a lot of women attracted by your charm. Isabella leaned a little lazily on the sofa behind her. The two plump masses on her chest changed slightly with this movement. The end of the black stockings faintly revealed her snow-white thighs. Every movement was full of temptation. I'm ashamed to say that so far, I only have 2 wives and 1 fiancé. Chinrui shook his head. As the heir of the family, I need to focus on more important matters. I like a man who knows self-discipline. Isabella showed a seductive smile. I will remember your future promise. At that time, I will also give you an unforgettable gift. Miss Isabella. Chinrui hesitated a little and said, I believe you have learned from Lord Josh about the predicament my family is facing and my comeback plan. Sir Josh once hinted to me that Miss is the key to me getting the recognition of the Royal Highness Regent. I now sincerely ask Miss to help me. After all, the current situation is still not optimistic, and there is not much time left for me. Isabella was not easy to deal with. In Charles's situation, if he was too careless, it would arouse suspicion, so Chinrui directly made the request. Sir Josh thinks too highly of me. I'm just a widow with little power. Isabella sighed. Besides, don't you think that things that are too easy to get will make people feel unreal, just like Sir's plan? This seemingly unintentional sentence made Chinrui's heart beat violently, but he still remained calm on the surface. He said faintly, So, I have to pay a considerable price to make Miss feel more real? Or you can call it fulfillment. Isabella's charming blue eyes were sparkling. For a woman who is empty all day long, this feeling is too precious. These words were full of teasing hints. If it was another man, it was likely that he would immediately push her to the ground, fill the emptiness of this woman, and let her taste what it was like to be full and fulfilled. Chinrui knew the details of this woman, so he didn't have any fancy thoughts at all. He just looked at her coldly. What are your conditions? Going straight to the point now. Isabella chuckled and said, I thought you wanted to do enough foreplay. Shouldn't a man with interests be more patient with women? Chinrui shook his head. It's undeniable that Mrs. Charm makes me almost unable to control myself. But, compared to interest, responsibility is more important to me. Sir Charles is really an admirable man, Isabella said with a smile. It's a pity that men are usually only responsible for themselves. As for women, they should be the object of your irresponsibility. Isn't it? Although Isabella smiled charmingly, Chinrui clearly saw the hint of cynicism, and he was silent. Isabella saw that he was silent, so she didn't continue to beat around the bush. She stated the conditions. Okay, since Sir Charles is a very responsible man, then go to a place and help me bring back a person. Where? What is the name and characteristics of that person? Chinrui did not refuse or bargain, and he showed a very straightforward look. Isabella was very satisfied with his attitude. The location is the underground ruins of Travant. We will pass by there soon. Don't ask that person's name. As for the characteristics, it's annoying, very annoying. No matter what that guy becomes, bring it to me, even if it's a corpse. Chinrui had been in the demon realm for a while, but he had not heard of the underground ruins of Travant. He asked again to confirm. Go to the underground ruins of Travant and bring back an annoying guy, dead or alive? Yes, there should be only one person in the entire underground ruins. Even the corpse should be very fresh. You don't have to worry about finding the wrong person. In fact, this guy offended me some time ago, and I tricked him to go there. Now I suddenly want to see if he's dead or has become a lunatic. Perhaps I'll give him a new trick to play with. Isabella's tone was very calm, as if it was just a very insignificant matter. Chenrui looked enlightened. Is Miss hinting that if I offend you, I will suffer a terrible end? Sir is thinking too much, but women are very vengeful. You can't easily offend them. Isabella elegantly tucked a strand of curly hair in front of her forehead behind her ear and smiled. However, if Sir Charles succeeds in this, then not only will he not be a person Isabella hates, but he may really like you. Chenrui heard between the lines. If he couldn't do it, then he would become the person she hated. This woman's mind was extraordinary, and she was vicious. Now was the critical moment of the plan. He must not let her ruin the plan. I will do my best to get Mrs. Favor, and help. Isabella nodded with a smile. She went out to instruct the coachman, then she returned to the space and said, The ruins are a little dangerous, but it is definitely not a problem for a powerhouse like Sir Charles. According to the current itinerary, you may arrive in half a day. The coachman, Jardel, will take you there. I will wait for your good news in Town Road in front. According to the request of Royal Highness Regent, I only have 3 extra days. I believe that Sir's plan does not allow too much time to be delayed, right? A little bit of danger that Isabella mentioned was definitely not ordinary. The Trevant ruins should be a very dangerous place, and they only had 3 days to go. However, it seemed like they had no choice but to go. By the way, I'll kill Jardel later. I've been hating his infatuated gaze lately, Isabella added lightly. I'm willing to serve you, beautiful lady. Chenrui smiled slightly, but there was a chill in his heart. The coachman was more or less someone close to me, but this woman killed him just like that. She is really a poisonous flower that cannot be touched. Then, Charles, I wish you success soon. Isabella smiled and raised her glass. Please forgive me for removing the polite address without authorization. It's my honor. Isabella. Chenrui also picked up his glass, and the two clinked their glasses. Although they each had their own ulterior motives, they smiled tacitly at the same time. Chapter 330. In the following time, Chenrui was patient and continued to chat with Isabella in a flirtatious manner. His seemingly casual words were more cautious. This woman is not easy to deal with. She is more terrifying than Sabrina. If I'm not careful, I'll expose my flaws. The carriage stopped at a fork in the road. Isabella, who had changed into a tight outfit, looked valiant. She ordered the coachman, Jardel, to separate the 3 horses that pulled the carriage. She rode one to Town Road, leaving the remaining 2 for Chenrui and Jardel to go to the ruins of Trevant. Chenrui drove the demonic horse and followed behind Jardel. These demonic horses were all mutated breeds. They were fast, but after running for a few hours, they still hadn't reached their destination. Moreover, the road was getting more and more rugged. In front of a forest dominated by black trees, the seemingly panicked demonic horse stopped and refused to run forward. Chenrui felt the fear of the demonic horse from analytical eyes. It seemed that there must be a powerful demonic beast in this dangerous place. Jardel took out a magic map and handed it to Chenrui. He said, Sir, the entrance to the ruins of Trevant is in the middle of the Black Forest. My strength is meager. I was ordered to send Sir here, so I won't go in. Jardel was a great demon with a large build. He looked a bit shrewd. Chenrui intuitively felt that Isabella didn't want him to kill this person. He secretly calculated in his heart whether to make this great demon with only higher demon strength into a puppet to obtain relevant information. However, he eventually rejected the idea. Maybe Isabella had some means of monitoring. It would be troublesome if the god-eating mask was exposed. Okay, go in peace. Chenrui nodded to Jardel. That was the last sentence Jardel heard in his life. Regardless of whether Jardel was innocent or not, Chenrui still used the fastest means to kill him. Just like how he destroyed the Mystic Valley and the Crystal Valley, he didn't show any mercy. In the big dying vat of life, sometimes it was inevitable to be dyed with colors that didn't belong to you. The only thing that could be maintained might be the original color of the heart under the colorful colors. Even a small portion of it was extremely precious. Chinrui knew he didn't have much time, so he followed the map and walked straight into the forest. The forest covered a large area, and the tall black trees with lush branches and leaves were like huge umbrellas, so the light from the 2 moons, which were not strong enough to begin with, could barely penetrate through the overlapping branches. It could only reveal specks of light and shadow, which made it look even more eerie. Although Chinrui already had considerable strength, he still didn't dare to relax his vigilance in this unknown jungle. Relying on the function of analytical eyes, he avoided some powerful demonic beasts along the way and moved toward the center of the forest in the fastest straight path. About 2 hours later, Chinrui finally approached the center of the forest on the map. Compared with the dense forest in front, there were very few trees in this area. He could already see some broken tiles and ruins, which seemed to be old. The further he walked, the more abandoned buildings he saw. This should be the Trevant that Isabella mentioned. From the scale of this ruin and the traces left behind, it could be vaguely seen that it should have its own glory, but he didn't know which race left the ruins. Dead silence and eerie, this was how Chinrui felt about the Trevant. There were no demonic beasts or animals in the entire ruin. There was a depressing feeling of death. Chinrui found the underground entrance marked on the map. It was a 3-meter-high gate. On the broken stone gate that only had half of it left, some relief patterns could be faintly seen. The most obvious one was a huge totem which seemed to be half an eye. If the stone gate on the other side was still there, then according to the symmetrical relationship, was it a complete huge eye? What does this mean? Chinrui took a deep breath and walked in. This section of the underground passage was very long. Fortunately, there were 1 or 2 effective magic light sources along the way which could barely provide a certain degree of visibility. This visibility was much worse than the underground world of Mountain Shillong and the underground palace of Silent Night Wetland. Most of the time, he was moving forward in the dark. The fear of the unknown danger in the dark made the atmosphere even more gloomy. Fortunately, with Chinrui's current strength, he could see the situation within a certain distance even in a completely dark environment. With the help of the illumination ring and magic eye compass, he moved forward carefully. The scale of this underground ruin was actually larger than the residual buildings on the ground. It was similar to Paglio's underground cave in Silent Night Wetland. Rugged white bones could be seen on the ground from time to time, but they should have been left a long time ago. The bones were fragile because of decay. They were not the person mentioned by Isabella. At this moment, a prompt suddenly appeared in Chinrui's analytical eyes. At the same time, the image of the magic eye compass suddenly distorted as if it was disturbed by some power. The image actually disappeared. Race Evil Eye. Comprehensive Strength Assessment C. Physique C. Strength E+, Spirit C+, Agility E+. Evil Eye, also known as Eye Demon, was a powerful demon realm creature. Just like its name, its main body was a huge eye in the head which occupied about the entire head. Its limbs were a few tentacles. Although this creature's speed was not fast, it could float in the low air. The most terrifying thing was its spirit power. Not only could it sense elements and launch magical ray attacks, but it could also be accompanied by various negative effects. The most terrifying thing was that it had a talent of penetration which could ignore the enemy's defense to a certain extent. In other words, no matter how strong a person's defense was, he could not be immune to the evil eye's attack. There was actually an evil eye in this underground ruin, and it even had the strength of a demon king. Chinrui was slightly surprised. A floating blurred figure appeared in his sight. Then, a pale green light struck like lightning. It penetrated through the body and fell on the rock behind. The hard rock suddenly shattered. The cracked rock that was stained with the green light began to decay rapidly, then it turned into a mud-like object. A poisonous ray. Chinrui launched the teleportation skill at the critical moment just now. The ray only penetrated his phantasm. Although he was not afraid of poison, this kind of attack was concentrated into one point, like some kind of ray gun. Its destructive and penetrating power was quite strong. Even Chunrui, who was at the Great Demon King level, did not dare to take it head-on. While dodging the ray attack, he sent a friendly message in the analytical eyes. The answer of the evil eye was very simple: a more powerful poisonous ray. Chunrui felt a strong hostility and killing intent from the evil eye. When he was thinking of countermeasures, the analytical eyes sent another prompt. There was actually a mutated evil eye behind. Comprehensive strength, B+. Physique, B+. Strength, C+. Spirit, A-. Agility, B. The evil eye of the peak of Great Demon King. Before Chunrui could react, there was a sudden sharp pain in his head, as if a sharp blade was directly pierced into his head. It was almost unbearable. He couldn't help but groan. This was no longer a visible ray attack, but a formless mental attack. The spirit power of the evil eye was very terrifying. It was clearly the strength of the peak of the Great Demon King, but its spirit power had reached the level of the early stage of the Demon Emperor. With the talent of penetration, Chunrui was caught off guard and suffered a big loss. Fortunately, the passive characteristic of anti-magic played a role in time. Otherwise, this sudden blow was likely to make him faint to the ground. Chunrui gritted his teeth and endured the pain. He distanced himself from the terrifying evil eye with Demon Emperor level spirit power in front of him. Then, the display in the analytical eyes made his hair stand up. There were two more, and they even sealed the passage he came from. The darkness had no effect on the evil eye. Instead, it was the best environment for hunting. The evil eye's favorite was the spirit type, food. It generally absorbed some special plant essence with similar effects. Devouring the soul of demonic beasts was also a habitual hunting method. Therefore, this underground and even the entire Trevant ruins were dead silent. There were no living creatures. Chunrui suddenly thought of the strange eye symbol on the entrance gate, and he finally understood that this underground ruin was the evil eye's lair. The evil eye's territorial concept was extremely strong. It had the meaning that those who were not of the same race must have different intentions. The invader, in front of them, had obviously become the prey in their eyes. It was useless even if Chunrui tried to communicate. As a predator, how could he be friendly with the food? Chunrui didn't have time to think much. He immediately teleported and dodged the ray attack of several evil eyes. His shoulder was swept by a flame ray. The terrifying heat of the ray penetrated the magic armor, and the skin of his shoulder was suddenly scorched. Fortunately, his physique was special. The three characteristics of astral form, damage absorption, and regeneration were activated. The injury began to recover quickly. Putting aside this kind of physical damage, Chunrui was most afraid of the peak Great Demon King level evil eye's spirit impact power. The uncomfortable feeling caused just now had not been completely eliminated. Fortunately, the super system absorbed all the spirit aftermath that invaded his brain and continued to destroy. Otherwise, it was uncertain whether he had the strength to escape now. The evil eye not only had a special talent for spirit attack, but it was even more terrifying as a social creature. The Demon Emperor level evil eye was also known as the Evil Eye Tyrant. Generally speaking, this was the upper limit of the evil eye's power, but individual mutants may reach a higher level. Due to the terrifying spirit power, even the Demon Overlord level powerhouse was not willing to provoke them easily. This is what Isabella said. A little bit of danger. There should be more than a few evil eyes underground. It was likely that there were more powerful guys. If they went all out, Chunrui was definitely not their opponent. Moreover, his purpose of coming here was to find someone, not to eliminate the evil eye. Thinking of this, Chunrui put away the unnecessary spiritual communication and carefully avoided the evil eye's attack. Suddenly, a large number of huge vines appeared on the ground and rolled toward the evil eye. It turned out that when he was dodging just now, Chunrui had secretly planted the gluttonous vine seeds. These vines definitely couldn't defeat the evil eyes, but they could effectively hold them back. Just as the evil eyes were dealing with the vines, Chunrui had already taken the opportunity to run forward. Although the evil eye's spirit power was terrifying, speed was its weakness. With full speed, he quickly got rid of these dangerous guys. The evil eye that destroyed the gluttonous vine in the rear felt the escape of the intruder, and it hissed angrily. This kind of hissing was a kind of spirit energy similar to sound waves. Its effective range was very far, especially when the sound waves of several evil eyes connected together, forming a kind of mutual amplification shock effect. Even if Chenrui was far away from the eye demons, he could still feel that powerful fluctuation. This kind of spirit fluctuation contained various terrifying feelings such as violence, brutality, madness, and so on. What was even more frightening was that there were similar waves coming from nearby. They seemed to be resonating with those evil eyes from before. These waves were getting stronger and stronger, and it was unknown how many evil eyes were emitting them. They intertwined and produced an even stronger resonance, forming a terrifying and huge spiritual network. There seemed to be countless invisible hands from all directions, tearing his consciousness. For a moment, his 5 senses almost lost their function. All kinds of negative emotions surged into Chenrui's heart. He only felt that his chest was extremely irritated, and his emotions became particularly irritable. Chenrui didn't expect the evil eye to have such an indiscriminate large-scale attack. His mind had been tempered by Shura during refined mind. Coupled with the super system's automatic absorption function of negative energy, although these spirit fluctuations were terrifying, they couldn't shake his will. However, this fluctuation seemed to be endless. It lasted for nearly half an hour and still didn't dissipate. The horror of the evil eye's spirit power was evident. No wonder Isabella once said that she wanted to see if the person was dead or crazy. If it was another person, even if he was at the same level of strength as Chenrui, he would probably be driven crazy even if he could survive in this terrifying environment for a long time. Since the last time this woman implanted a fatal voodoo in him, Chenrui had already seen the ruthlessness of the flower of Mandala. However, the current plan must first pass Isabella. Since he was already here, he must at least bring back a corpse. Chenrui resisted the influence of this spirit fluctuation and carefully explored forward. The magic compass that was affected by the evil eye's power could no longer play a role. He also didn't dare to use the illumination ring again, so as not to attract the evil eye's attention. Fortunately, he had the analytical eyes. It could play the most critical detection role in this unfavorable environment with extremely low visibility and strong interference of hearing. After walking cautiously for a while, the strong spirit fluctuation finally weakened slowly. Chenrui, who had recovered his hearing, suddenly heard a strange sound. It was the sound of screaming. This was by no means the voice of the evil eye. It sounded a bit like a human voice. It was probably the person who offended Isabella. Unexpectedly, this person was still alive. Chenrui hurriedly quickened his pace. The voice was getting closer and closer. It was really a human voice with a kind of hysterical hoarseness. Chenrui only felt that this voice was faintly familiar. Suddenly, his expression changed drastically. It's Lomont. The person who offended Isabella and was tricked into this terrifying evil eye lair is actually Lomont, who has not returned to the Dark Moon. Chapter 331. Chenrui no longer cared about being cautious. The scamper appeared under his feet, and he rushed towards the source of the sound at full speed. He saw a vague figure screaming while covering his head. Strangely, his scream did not attract the evil eyes, and there were no terrifying creatures around. Chenrui had already approached. It was indeed Lomont, who had set off for the capital a few months ago. At this time, the mental fluctuations of the evil eyes in the distance had completely disappeared. Lomont was still screaming. His throat was extremely hoarse, but he did not stop. It was as if he wanted to scream out the last of his life. Lomont! Chenrui shouted a few times, but Lomont did not respond at all. Chenrui patted his shoulder. This almost powerless action caused Lomont's body to fall. He panted for a while, but his throat was still screaming. Chenrui felt that Lomont's body had reached a very weak level. What was more frightening was that Lomont's mind seemed to be in a state of collapse. Shinrei could not even recognize him. He immediately clenched his teeth and knocked Lomont out. This was a relatively spacious cave. Shinrei took out a magic tent and helped Lomont in. He fed him a bottle of calming potion and covered him with a thin blanket. The calming potion was a master-level potion produced by the exchange center, but it could only stabilize the mood and soothe the mind. If Lomont was really mentally deranged, the calming potion would not be able to do anything. Although this guy usually caused trouble, Shinrei was very clear that Lomont was a partner that he could safely turn his back on. He would not even hesitate to sacrifice his life for his partner. Looking at the miserable state of Lomont, whose life was uncertain, Shinrei clenched his fists so hard that blood almost came out of his palms. He put Isabella on his kill list. This vicious woman must die. About 3 hours later, Lomont slowly woke up, but he still hadn't regained his consciousness. His throat made a ho-ho sound, like the roar of a beast. It seemed that the tranquilizer didn't work. Lomont must have been affected by the terrifying mental power of the eye demons in the underground lair that was full of evil eyes. Shinrei was anxious. He thought of a way at the last minute. He channeled the power of his Dharma state and condensed his voice into a single line. He kept shouting Delia's name and sent it into Lomont's ears. Although he still hadn't fully mastered the lawful state, this kind of power already had a hint of territory. The voice went straight into Lomont's consciousness. Lomont's roar gradually became lower and turned into violent gasps. Sometimes it began to attack again. Obviously, there was a fierce battle in the spiritual world. After a long time, the terrible situation finally calmed down. "Is it, Captain?" Lomont's hoarse voice carried an unprecedented weakness. "You're finally awake!" Shinrei breathed a sigh of relief and let go of his hand. Continuously controlling his mental power made him feel tired. "I'm starving. Get some wine to drink. You're still drinking at this time. You might as well die," Shinrei scolded. He took out some dry food and put it in the water. He boiled it with fire and fed it to Lomont. Lomont finally recovered a little after eating something. He laid on the ground weakly. "I actually owe you another life. Although I don't like men, I can consider marrying you if necessary." "Marrying your head?" Shinrei knocked his head hard. "Disgusting guy." However, being able to be so disgusting, at least he was back to normal. Lomont didn't have the strength to avoid it now, so he could only smile. "Anyway, one life is a debt, a few lives are also a debt. Didn't you say that the one who owes the debt is the master, and the one who collects the debt is the grandson? Save your strength to recover quickly, and then run for your life." Shinrei didn't bother to argue with him. "There are no beauties in this evil eye's lair. When I came just now, I was surrounded by a few evil eyes. I almost couldn't get away. Why are you here? My plan has been half successful. This time, the capital sent an envoy to the Red Spirit. It's Isabella. I went to the capital with her. On the way, she put forward a condition for me to come here to find someone. I didn't expect that person to be you." Shinrei gritted his teeth and said, "That vicious woman made you like this. After my plan succeeds, the first person I want to kill is her." Lomont shook his head. "Actually, it's not her fault. Don't tell me you were bewitched by that woman." This answer was beyond Shinrei's expectation. "The woman you said?" Lomont smiled bitterly. "She is really my father's sister." Shinrei frowned. "So that's the case. Why did she lie to you to come to such a terrible place?" "This place? I came willingly." Lomont sat up slowly. "This is a shortcut to gain power." "Shortcut?" Shinrei frowned even tighter. "Using those evil eyes to hone your will? Do you know what you were like when I saw you? If you can't wake up just now, I'm afraid Delia will really become a widow." "I'm mentally prepared. In the history of the Belphegor royal family, most of the people who used this method to train lost their lives, and a small half became lunatics. Only 1 in 10,000 people can succeed." Lomont sat up, and his eyes became firm. "Even if there is only 1 in 10,000 hope, I won't let it go. What the hell is going on? This is the secret of the Belphegor royal family. However, now that the Sloth royal family has declined, it doesn't matter if I say it. Lomont raised his hand with difficulty and pointed to his left eye. The eye of evil, evil eye? Chenrei suddenly thought of something. Is there any relationship between these two terms? Leader may have thought of something. Lomont sighed. The eye of evil is known as the left eye of the demon god. It's not as simple as seeing through. As for evil voodoo, it's just a small trick. If this is the case, how can it be as famous as the eye of incubus, that creates the spiritual territory? I'm only awakening the primary power of the eye of evil, bewitchment. Some of the same race with mutated bloodlines can directly have a higher stage of bewitchment. Unfortunately, my talent is not good. I'm not a royal family with mutated bloodlines. Therefore, if I want to have the power of bewitchment, I must use the power of the evil eye to break through. The power breath of the eye of evil had a mysterious connection with the evil eye. It could assist and enhance the spirit power of the evil eye, giving these terrifying demonic beasts a very comfortable feeling. Unless they actively attacked, the Belphegor royal family with the eye of evil would not be regarded as an enemy by the evil eye. The spirit power of the evil eye could also temper the eye of evil and even stimulate it to evolve into the next form. This relationship was like a toothpick bird and a crocodile, mutually beneficial. However, compared to the enhancement of the Belphegor royal family to the evil eye, the spirit power of the evil eye was much more dangerous to the Belphegor royal family. This kind of spirit, tempering, was a bit similar to the refined mind that Chenrei had experienced. It was a training that used high pressure to stimulate the body's potential and will in an extremely dangerous situation to break through one's own bottleneck. If one was not careful, one might die from mental exhaustion. Even if one survived by luck, most of them would be mentally disturbed because of a mental breakdown. Only a very small number of people could really succeed in this hellish tempering. Isabella promised to tell Lomont the whereabouts of the Breeze shadow boots on the condition that Lomont had the power to destroy evil. Lomont learned from Isabella that there was an evil eye's lair in the underground ruins of Trevant, so he came here. In terms of training, there is still a long way to go. Also, this method is too dangerous. Let's get out of here first. You almost went crazy just now. If it weren't for Chenrei who rushed to this place by accident, what awaited Lomont would probably be a complete mental breakdown. I'm not leaving. Lomont shook his head firmly. I don't have a mutated bloodline, and I don't have a magical inheritance like yours. This is already the most effective shortcut. Moreover, before falling into chaos, I have already faintly realized the feeling of a breakthrough. As long as I survive, I can obtain the power to destroy evil. Even if I die, I will never give up this opportunity. You only have one life, Chenrei said angrily. Do you want to make Delia sad? You don't understand. Lomont suddenly became agitated and punched the ground. So many times Delia woke up from a nightmare and trembled in my arms. So many times she almost couldn't bear the torture of the soul shackles, and it was better to die than to live. Not only that, I once saw my father being tortured by the soul shackles, with my own eyes, and he finally died in front of me. I must kill Bailuo. I must remove the soul shackles from Delia. I must avenge my father. Looking at Lomont's rare rage, Chenrei was silent for a while. He wasn't very clear about the pain that Delia and Lomont were going through. Even Athena wasn't clear about it. Lomont acted like a rascal all day long, and Delia looked like she was having a good time. In actual fact, compared to the previous nightmares, she and Chenrei were indeed much happier. However, the pain that was hidden deep behind the happiness was perhaps even more heart-wrenching. Chenrei took a deep breath. If you insist, then I will stay here with you. At the very least, there will be someone who will bring back a corpse or a lunatic for Delia. Doesn't Captain have a very important plan? Humph! Don't think too highly of yourself. Do you think that an insignificant person like you can affect my plan? Lomont looked at Chenrei for a while and suddenly grinned. Captain, should I look into your eyes with deep affection? Get lost! Shinrei showed a disgusted expression. Tell me more about the destroying evil power. Don't think that I don't know you. You must be hiding something. If you don't tell the truth, you will implicate me. I'm really naked in front of Captain. Lomont's shy look almost blinded Sir Captain's titanium eyes in the dark. Actually, it's nothing. After obtaining the destroying evil power, I will capture an evil eye that is at least of the same level and integrate its power. Capturing a great Demon King level member alive in this evil eye's lair? Shinrei couldn't wait to beat that pretentious face into a honeycomb. In fact, this step was indeed very important. The higher the level of the captured evil eye, the better. If the integration was successful, it would further produce some kind of mutation. Then, it could achieve the highest talent power and command a large number of evil eyes to fight as servants. Imagine the spectacular scene when a group of evil eyes released their spirit power or raised together. This was the real demon god's left eye, the eye of evil. Chapter 332. It was the 5th time. He did not know what method Lomont had used to induce the spiritual power of the evil eye's nest. In a sense, this spiritual power was even greater than what Shinrei had encountered before. However, it was not dangerous to people other than Lomont. It was as if there was a whirlpool in his left eye that sucked in all the spiritual power. For Lomont, this was the beginning of a nightmare. Every time, it would bring unimaginable pain. He could neither live nor die. This was a battle with himself. Only by defeating himself and surpassing himself could he truly break out of the cocoon. Shinrei could understand this pain very well. He had encountered similar experiences many times in the heart-refining realm, especially during that 2-month slumber. He did not know how many times he had been on the verge of collapse and death. If it were not for Shinrei's assistance with strength and potions, Lomont would have completely collapsed during the 3rd time. However, it was a fluke that he could be saved that time. In this kind of training, external forces could play a minimal role. The most important thing was to rely on oneself. Otherwise, even with the resurrection potion, he would only be saved as a walking corpse with a mental breakdown. Lomont did not even have the strength to roll around or scream. His body, which was covered in cold sweat, was twitching involuntarily. The dried bloodstain in his left eye began to overflow with bright red liquid again. He clenched his teeth, and his throat gritted out 1 or 2 names from time to time. This was the self-suggestion that supported his will, and it was also his biggest and final pillar of support. Delia's name was the most. There were also the names of Lomont's father, and a few names that he did not know. Shinrei's and Athena's names were also impressively among them. Shinrei clenched his fists. This was a partner. Unfortunately, all he could do now was to watch. When he was in a coma for 2 months, this guy was more or less in the same mood. The blood stain on the ground gradually expanded. It was hard to believe that so much blood was seeping from a closed eye. If it was an ordinary human, he would have died from excessive blood loss. Lomont's skin once again distorted horribly, as if something was wriggling inside. Some of the swollen parts even had clear blood vessels and cracks, as if they could burst at any time. Shinrei knew that it was a critical moment. Previously, Lomont almost exploded at this step. He quickly waited and prepared to rescue him. Lomont's body trembled more and more violently. Bang! 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 There was a dull explosion, and he suddenly became a bloody man. This had never happened before. It had never happened before. Shinrei was shocked. Just as he was about to try to rescue him, the blood suddenly turned into a bloody mist and enveloped Lomont. The bloody mist gradually formed a strange image. It should be the form of a demonic beast, but the image was very blurry. As time passed, the image began to become clearer. Originally, this unprecedented change should be a sign of success, but Lomont's body seemed to be unable to support the completion of the image. It began to wither at a speed visible to the naked eye, like a mummy. Shinrei felt that Lomont's life force was rapidly weakening. In the blink of an eye, it was already extremely weak. The demonic beast image that was gradually becoming clearer also began to collapse. It was clearly a sign of death. Shinrei made a prompt decision. He exchanged a bottle of resurrection potion and directly sprinkled it on Lomont's withered body. The collapsed vitality of the mummy suddenly became stronger. Its body and vitality were also recovering step by step. It seemed that this move was a fluke, and Lomont was pulled back from the line of death. The image of the demonic beast condensed by the bloody mist was already quite clear. It was a demonic beast that looked like a mantis. Its front claws were like two sharp knives. The magic gladiator of the mantis constellation? While Chunrui was stunned, the image only lasted for a moment before it dissipated in the bloody mist. The bloody mist began to quickly retract into Lomont's left eye. After a long time, the closed eyes slowly opened, and the pupil of the left eye emitted a strange red light. Even Chunrui had a feeling that his soul was shaken the moment they looked at each other. When Chunrui was concentrating his mind and channeling his strength to defend, Lomont's pupil had returned to normal. Although he looked exhausted, his eyes were flashing with ecstasy and excitement. Chunrui was overjoyed. "You succeeded?" "Hee, of course, don't you know who I am? Now the Eye of Evil already has the power to destroy evil, but I still need time to gradually familiarize myself with this new power." Lomont's eyes fell on the empty bottle in his hand, and he was slightly shocked. "Just now, was it resurrection potion?" Chunrei showed a look of pity. "Yeah, even if there is the Grand Master's inheritance, it is very difficult to get it. It was wasted on you, an idiot." Although he didn't understand what an idiot meant, Lomont could hear that it was by no means a compliment. He immediately showed a look of pity. "The resurrection potion can only be used once in a lifetime. You actually took away my precious first time. If Delia knew, she would be sad." Chunrei's forehead was blue with veins popping out. "If you continue to be disgusting, I will fill your stomach with aphrodisiac and throw you into a bunch of perverts who like men." Lomont shuddered. "Captain, this move is too ruthless. You are the real demon. Stop talking. Drink the recovery potion, eat something, and have a good rest for a while. Then we will go to capture the evil eye. Isabella gave me a time limit of 3 days. If we are fast, we may be able to make it." Lomont didn't speak again, and immediately began to recover his strength. This time, he successfully escaped from death and consumed a bottle of the most precious potion that was enough to shake the demon realm. However, he didn't say a word of thanks to Chunrei. He could just keep these things in his heart. Although this guy seemed to be extroverted and almost shameless, he was actually not good at expressing his true feelings. Besides, some words were unnecessary between partners. Originally, Lomont's breakthrough almost exhausted all his strength, but the resurrection potion of the highest level was extraordinary. Coupled with the newly acquired power to destroy evil, his current state was quite good. It was just that his spirit was too exhausted before. After resting for a few hours, he finally recovered most of it. Next, he needed to capture and subdue an evil eye that was not lower than his own level. If there was no accident, this evil eye would turn into a spirit body mode and become the companion beast of the Eye of Evil, to accompany Lomont for a lifetime. The two were contract objects, sharing power, and could evolve together. When the Eye of Evil comprehended the next step of the Eye of Evil, it could also merge with the companion beast and manipulate evil eyes that were lower than the strength of the companion beast. The number of manipulations was proportional to the strength. Although Lomont comprehended the power of destroy evil, his overall strength still stayed at the early stage of the Great Demon King. However, after obtaining the power of destroy evil, the speed of breaking through the small realms should be very fast. As for the Demon Emperor, the key lay in the power of territory. It was still too early. It was not easy to capture a great demon king in the Evil Eye's lair because this kind of gregarious demonic beast would form a nest if provoked. According to Lomont, there was also a demon emperor-level Evil Eye tyrant here. Although the Eye of Evil could produce the breath of the Evil Eye and coexist peacefully with it, this was in the absence of hostility. Once the hostility was sensed by the sensitive Evil Eye, then even the Eye of Evil couldn't avoid the attack. For example, if the toothpick bird wanted to kill the crocodile, would the crocodile let it forage in its mouth? It would have been chewed into pieces with its hair and bones. In this case, Chunrui and Lomad could only capture the prey as fast as possible and then quickly evacuate. Otherwise, if they were detected by the evil eye tyrant, even escaping would be a problem. Lomad's advantage was that he would not be attacked by the evil eye before his hostility was exposed. Therefore, the plan decided by the two was that Chunrui, who had been branded as an intruder, would be the bait to attract the firepower. Lomad would wait for the opportunity to capture a great Demon King level evil eye. In this way, the previously missing prey entered the sight of the evil eyes again. There was no need for Chunrui to deliberately emit any power of spiritual communication. Those extremely vengeful evil eyes floated toward him, and they even summoned a few companions. Chunrui avoided the long-range ray attack while releasing gluttonous vines to interfere and attract the evil eyes. The evil eyes were very angry at the obvious provocation of this cunning prey, and they chased after him. If the lights were bright now, one could see a high-speed turning figure followed by a string of floating evil eyes. The scene was quite funny. However, Chunrui himself didn't feel funny. Although the speed of the evil eyes was a shortcoming, his movement couldn't be faster than his spirit power. So far, there were 3 rays and 1 spirit shock. Fortunately, 2 of the rays were from the Demon King level evil eyes. He was also wearing a leather armor with strong elemental resistance, so it wasn't a big deal. It was just that the evil eye's talent to ignore defense was too overpowered. The spirit shock once again penetrated his spirit power defense, almost making him fall. Chunrui felt that he was becoming more and more like a meat shield that pulled and resisted monsters in an instant's dungeon. He attracted all the enemy's hatred. The problem was that there was no healer to help him heal, and there were no teammates with high damage output to kill the monsters. He didn't know if Lomad saw the target, and was ready to defeat the enemy in one hit. The evil eye's talent was too terrifying, and there were many of them. If this continued, when the boss tyrant arrived, the poor duo would definitely be wiped out. Lomad followed behind the group of evil eyes. The breath of Eye of Evil that he was currently exuding was a kind of replenishment for the evil eye's spirit power consumption, so the evil eyes habitually didn't show hostility to him. However, he only had one chance. Once he missed, he could only run away like Sir Leader. Lomad had already targeted a middle-stage Great Demon King's evil eye at the back of the large team. Generally speaking, the stronger the demonic beast as a companion spirit, the better it was because the half-spirit shared power with him. This meant that his power would increase slower than normal in the future. Of course, his power would be stronger. Just as the evil eyes fired rays one after another and focused on chasing Chunrui, Lomad finally made a move. The Wind Mastery and Flash Bloodline talent were activated at the same time. The Great Demon King level evil eye's body suddenly froze, and it was bound by the wind element. Almost at the same time, Lomad's figure had appeared behind the evil eye, and he punched the head with the giant eye. The evil eye's spirit power had reached the peak of the Great Demon King level. It was keenly aware of the danger, but it was too late to dodge. It was hit by Lomad's punch. However, Lomad's punch stopped about 10 centimeters away from the evil eye because there was already a thin shield in front of the evil eye. This lightning-like punch only shook the shield, but it couldn't break through. Magic shield? Damn mutated talent! Lomad didn't expect that the prey that he had locked on for so long actually had such a mutated talent. Many evil eyes had already felt the abnormality behind them, and they began to turn their heads. The evil eye that was attacked immediately told Lomad's behavior in a special spiritual communication, and the evil eyes floated back angrily. Lomad was startled and quickly increased his power output, but this magic shield was created by the mutated talent of the evil eye. Its spirit power was already very strong, so Lomad couldn't break through it in a hurry. Instead, a few floating evil eyes began to launch ray attacks at him. Lomad hurriedly dodged. The Demon Realm's strongest speed talent, Flash, really deserved its reputation. None of those rays could hit him. Lomont made up his mind and didn't give up on the mutated evil eye. Instead, he launched a fierce attack against the rays and spirit impact. This evil eye has a mutated talent. If I can subdue it as a companion beast, it will also greatly improve my combat power. Just as the evil eye's shield was about to collapse, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. Leader? Although Lomont was taken aback, there were only him and Shinrei in the underground, so he was not particularly nervous. Hurry up! Shinrei's voice had a hint of anxiety. Wait! I'm about to catch this evil eye. Catch my ass, the evil eye tyrant is coming! Shinrei's words made Lomont shudder. Without hesitation, he grabbed Shinrei's arm with his backhand, activated Flash talent at full speed, and fled backward. It's over. The evil eye is the most vengeful. If I miss this time, I will be their enemy when I come in again. As Lomont spoke, his speed was not slow at all. Gradually, he pulled the evil eye behind him away. The evil eye tyrant was a demon emperor level evil eye. Even the average demon overlord powerhouse was not willing to provoke it easily. With their current strength, they could only escape, not to mention there was such a large group of evil eye minions. It's all your fault. You haven't even caught one after watching for a long time. Shinrei had a feeling of exasperation. I've pulled the aggro for so long, but I haven't even killed a small monster here. How would I know that it has the ability to mutate? Lomont knew that he was in the wrong, so he said with a bitter face. Why don't we take a detour and find an early stage of Great Demon King to capture? At this time, they had almost pulled the group of evil eyes behind them to a safe distance. Shinrei suddenly trembled and stopped. As Lomont was about to ask, the Eye of Evil suddenly felt a terrifying mental oppression coming from behind. His face suddenly changed. Shinrei's analytical eyes showed, race, evil eye mutated. Comprehensive strength A-. Physique B+, strength B+, spirit A+, agility B. Demon Emperor level evil eye, tyrant. His agility attribute is only B. How can he catch up? At this moment, the information behind instantly appeared in front. Shinrei and Lomont felt this change at the same time, and they were both taken aback. Teleportation. An evil eye tyrant with a mutated talent, teleportation. Now even escaping is a problem. Chapter 333. The biggest weakness of the evil eye was its slow speed. Although the long-range ray could make up for this flaw to a certain extent, the range of spirit shock was shorter. The lack of mobility made it difficult for them to catch up with the speed-type enemy. However, this evil eye tyrant actually had the mutated talent of teleportation. It could attack and defend, so it almost perfectly made up for the shortcomings of the evil eye tribe. Now Shinrei and Lomont were going to face such a perfect evil eye, and it was even a demon emperor level tyrant. Although Shinrei could barely approach the combat power of the early stage of the demon emperor through scorching dragon possession and dark star territory, this mutated tyrant's spirit power actually reached the peak of the demon emperor level. With the evil eye's terrifying spirit talent and Lomont, they still couldn't compete with it. Split up and run! Shinrei shouted decisively. Lomont responded, and the two figures suddenly separated. The evil eye tyrant followed Shinrei without thinking because it had locked on the intruder with the highest hatred value from the beginning. Moreover, Lomont's current speed was still above Shinrei, so it was obviously easier to catch up with the target in front of him. Shinrei felt the approach of the evil eye tyrant in the analytical eyes. Before it launched an attack, he suddenly teleported to the entrance of another passage and escaped. The evil eye tyrant had seen the same teleportation skill of this enemy once before, so it was not surprised. Its figure shook and chased up. The teleportation distance was still above Shinrei, and it could be used continuously. After a few ups and downs, it got close to him again. Shinrei complained secretly. His 2 teleportations had been used up. With the help of the stripper, his speed had been maximized, but he still couldn't get rid of the tyrant's pursuit. At this moment, Shinrei felt that his full-speed movement suddenly wanted to slow down. At this critical moment, he actually had such a strange idea. No! Chinray reacted. This is spirit control. What a terrifying ability! Even though Chinray had quickly eliminated this interference, the momentary hesitation in his brain had already reflected on his body. His speed had suddenly slowed down, and the evil-eye tyrant had already appeared in front of him. The evil-eye tyrant was exceptionally furious and hateful towards its prey's craftiness. It was determined to devour Hu Yuhao's spirit. In order to prevent its prey from escaping again, it unleashed its greatest spiritual power. Chenrei felt as if the world was spinning, as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him from above. His body was immediately pressed down by that huge spiritual power and was unable to move. Then, his surroundings were filled with countless intertwining spider webs, firmly binding him, as if the sky and the earth were a huge spider web. Domain! Just as Chinray groaned in his heart, he saw a huge eyeball appear in the spiderweb world. It seemed to be more than 10 meters tall, and emitted a demonic light. The moment Chinray looked at this eyeball, his expression suddenly became absent-minded. A voice kept telling him to give up resistance, and voluntarily offer his life and soul. No! There are still so many things to be done, and I still have to protect my beloved. How can I give up resistance and give up my life? How can I fall in such a place? At the same time, the super system sent a warning of abnormal spiritual power invasion. Chinray suddenly woke up and suppressed the strange will to die with his strong will. He bit the tip of his tongue fiercely and got rid of the spirit wave control of the giant eye. However, his body that was bound by the domain was still unable to move. The giant eye was getting closer and closer. This domain full of spider webs was a bit similar to Manu's, but its nature was completely different, and its power was much inferior. Manu's domain could mainly restrain spirit control and puppet-like items, but this domain was obviously binding plus spirit control. It was just that the spiderweb domain was built by the spirit of the peak stage of the Demon Emperor. It was far from what Chinray could contend with his current strength. Do I have to use that kind of self-explosion in Manu's domain to get rid of it? Oh right! Chinray suddenly thought of something. As he was about to cast it, the image of the giant evil eye in the center of the domain suddenly blurred and became a lot smaller. The pressure of the spirit binding was greatly reduced. Chinray exerted his strength, and finally got rid of it. The entire domain was distorted for a while, but it soon returned to normal. A person fell down from the domain out of thin air. It was Lomont. His left pupil was blood red, and the corner of his eye cracked. Blood kept flowing out. Lomont got up and panted violently. Obviously, he suffered a big loss when he interfered with the domain just now. Why did you turn back? Chinray was touched, and he scolded. Go quickly! Don't come here with your hands and feet tied! Hee. I just wanted to see if there were any benefits, but I didn't expect to be discovered by it. Lomont had a bit of Paglio's demeanor. A dead duck was still stubborn. He wiped his eyes casually, ignored the blood on his hands, and said with a bitter face, I'm afraid I can't escape now even if I want to. Countless spider silks extended from the domain again, and rolled toward the two of them. Lomont's blood eye glowed with a faint red light, and those spider silks rolled back one after another. However, more and more spider silks accumulated. With every additional trace, the pressure on Lomont increased. He seemed to be unable to withstand it any longer. This was the special restraining effect of the power of Destroy Evil on the evil eye. If it was the previous Lomont, he would probably be finished in one blow in this peak stage of the Demon Emperor level domain. Put away your Eye of Evil! Hurry! Lomont closed his eyes without thinking, and the spider silks immediately surrounded him. At this moment, a mask appeared on Chinray's face. The spider silks gradually became thinner under the strange power of the mask, and then they disappeared. Not only that, the mask was like a whale sucking in water, swallowing the spirit power of the entire domain at an amazing speed. The god-eating masks, god-eating power, devoured all spirit power, magic power, and soul attacks. For the evil eye that relied on spirit power, this was the biggest nemesis. The evil-eye tyrant didn't expect the opponent to have such a terrifying skill. It tried its best to withdraw its power, but it was too late. After a few breaths, the entire domain, which had lost the support of spiritual power, became extremely fragile. Finally, with a bang, it disappeared without a trace. The world of the spiderweb returned to the underground ruins that were dark and blinded by light. The evil-eye tyrant lost most of its spirit power, and its intimidating aura suddenly became much weaker. It made a hissing sound mixed with horror and resentment, and it began to float backward. It seemed to want to escape, but after a certain distance, the huge eye suddenly shot out a red ray straight at Roman. Lomond hurriedly activated Flash to dodge, but he was half a beat too late. The outer thigh was grazed by the ray, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. The wound was much more serious than expected. Part of the flesh and blood was vaporized. It seemed that this ray contained a terrifying high temperature. Chunrui's god-eating skill could only be used once every 7 days, and it couldn't be used anymore. It devoured most of the evil eye's spirit power just now, causing the domain to collapse. However, the basic power of the evil eye was still there, especially the talent of the elemental ray, which was quite powerful. Lomond's leg was injured, and his mobility was greatly affected. The tyrant had the attitude of taking advantage of his weakness to kill him. Terrifying high-temperature rays were shot one after another, but none of them were aimed at Chunrui. It seemed that the devouring domain had caused the evil-eye tyrant to be deeply afraid. This kind of attack towards Lomond also had the intention of testing and picking on the weak. Another 3 rays flew over. Seeing that Lomond couldn't dodge anymore, Chunrui's figure suddenly blocked in front of him. The high-temperature rays continuously hit Chunrui's body. More accurately speaking, they hit the big round shield in his hands. When the rays that could melt metal landed on this dark gold round shield, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. They disappeared in an instant, and there wasn't even a scratch on the shield that was as bright as a mirror. On the other hand, Chunrui was pushed back 3 steps by the impact, and he almost collided with Lomond. Lomond's eyes widened, and he blurted out, "Demon Shield!" This was the demon shield of the highest artifact of the Leviathan royal family, elusive demon shield. It was one of the trophies of Chunrui in the Crystal Valley. Since it had been cracked by deep analysis, the demon shield was bound to him like the god-eating mask. He couldn't return it to Lydia even if he wanted to. Maybe it was because it wasn't merged with the illusory shield. The function of the demon shield wasn't displayed in the super system, but Chunrui could already experience its benefits now. The 3 rays of the evil-eye tyrant hit the demon shield just now. Not only was it defended, but a warm current also passed from the demon shield to Chunrui's body at the same time. It quickly replenished the previously consumed strength, and allowed him to quickly stand firm. If the role of the illusory shield was to reflect damage while defending, then the role of the demon shield was to absorb damage. If the power gap between the 2 sides wasn't particularly big, as long as the defense was proper, it could almost be invincible. It was worthy of being the strongest armor in the demon realm. He didn't know what other special power there would be when the illusory shield and the demon shield merged into the complete form of the illusory demon shield. With a thought, Chunrui opened his 5 fingers, and a dazzling light ball appeared. It drew a swift meteor in the darkness, and rushed towards the evil-eye tyrant. The evil-eye tyrant was shocked. If it was a normal evil eye, it could only resist it forcefully. However, the tyrant that had a mutated skill could only teleport and dodge it. However, the light ball that missed made a turn and flew towards the tyrant again. The tyrant didn't expect there to be such a move. It teleported again and dodged. The number of light balls chasing after it increased from 1 to 3. The tyrant instinctively felt that the power in the light ball seemed to be able to cause considerable damage to it. It continuously teleported and dodged. From time to time, it would release rays to counterattack. Unfortunately, it was either dodged by the enemy or blocked by the shield. This kind of continuous teleportation and ray attack was rather strenuous for the evil-eye tyrant that had already lost most of its mental power. The gap between the teleportation was getting longer and longer. It was obvious that it consumed a lot of energy. However, the control of Aurora's shot was also quite taxing on the mind. Shinrui's forehead was already sweating. Moreover, the power of Aurora's shot was slowly weakening as it flew for a long time. Shinrui didn't wait for the Aurora shot to be exhausted. He immediately fired 3 more. The evil-eye tyrant once again used teleportation to dodge the pincer attack of Aurora's shot. Just as it stabilized its footing, a figure had already pounced down from midair. The 2 blue lights in its hands swept towards the tyrant like lightning. It was Lomont. Lomont's timing of attack was quite good. He had been observing the rhythm of the evil-eye tyrant's teleportation just now. Now was the empty period when the evil-eye tyrant could no longer use teleportation. This tyrant's strength was in its mental power. Perhaps it was because its mental power mutation was particularly high, but its other qualities were relatively low. It was only at the Great Demon King level. Its close combat was also a weakness. As long as this attack was successful, it would definitely be severely injured. Seeing that Lomont's dual blades were about to touch the tyrant, there was a sudden boom in his head as if he was hit by a huge wave. His movements became sluggish, and his body suddenly fell to the ground. He held his head and showed a painful expression. If it wasn't for the huge consumption of the evil-eye tyrant's mental power and the protection of the evil breaker, this powerful spirit shock was enough to make him faint on the spot. The hasty spirit shock caused the evil-eye tyrant's strength to decrease a lot. As he was about to release the ray to eliminate this despicable ambusher, he suddenly felt a dangerous breath in front of him. He saw that the enemy with a strange ability was covered in black flames. The entire tunnel was dyed in a strange color. That sense of danger was getting stronger. There was a fierce and manic breath faintly in the air. The evil-eye tyrant had a rare feeling of uneasiness, and it faintly had the intention to retreat. Right at this moment, the ambusher on the ground suddenly exploded, and the dual blades flew out of his hands. This was an unexpected turn of events, and the distance was too close. There was no time to dodge. Normally, normal attacks would not be able to break through the tyrant's mental defense. However, Lomont's dual blades contained a special, evil breaker, which was the nemesis of the evil eye. 2 rays of blue light firmly nailed the tyrant's body. One of them even nailed the only big eye in the center, and a large amount of juice flowed out of the wound. The evil-eye tyrant let out a painful scream. Its mental power suddenly exploded like a substantial storm. Lomont's entire body was fiercely smashed against the opposite stone wall by a copious and unstoppable force. The force that protected his body was almost shattered, and his internal organs were severely injured. He continuously spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and he was almost unable to move. After the evil-eye tyrant unleashed the spirit storm, with all its strength, various feelings of confusion and weakness suddenly appeared in its mind. However, to the evil eye that was almost immune to negative mental magic, this kind of power was not enough to be afraid of. What shocked it was that no matter if it was its mental power or speed, all of its qualities were actually weakened a lot at the same time. Immediately after, the cave seemed to tremble under the effect of some kind of terrifying power. The terrifying aura that was brewing on the opposite side had already exploded. The evil-eye tyrant had no choice but to forcefully open its injured eyes. In a blur, it saw a huge meandering red creature pouncing towards it. The terrifying aura emitted from its body made it feel a strong tremble. At this moment, the evil-eye tyrant was almost exhausted. It could no longer use teleportation. It could only use its remaining mental power to face it, but it still could not resist. The injured eyeball kept spurting juice under the huge pressure, and the power of its defense collapsed bit by bit. Finally, it lost consciousness. After a long time, the trembling of the cave finally stopped. "This guy actually didn't die." Shinrei's voice was a little surprised. It was indeed a demon emperor-level demonic beast. It actually withstood the scorching dragon kill in the Dark Star territory, and it actually did not die. "Didn't die?" Lomont struggled to get up while coughing blood. Suddenly he thought of something and revealed an ecstatic expression. "I've earned big this time,"